Hello, this is the Stories Beside channel. I release videos every day for you. Subscribe and click the bell. Adriana struggled to keep her eyes open. Her head ached and her throat felt dry. She turned around and realized that she was lying not in her usual bed in the dormitory, but somewhere in an unfamiliar place. And the naked girl sat up abruptly, which made her dizzy even more. God! Adriana pressed her hands to her temple and looked at the luxurious bedroom. More like an expensive hotel room, huge king-sized bed, white linens, blankets in disarray, and she herself completely naked. The girl saw her dress and panties on the carpet near the chair. She looked for her cell phone and found it nearby on the nightstand. Adriana turned it on to check the time and saw a message about replenishing her bank card. On her account fell $1,000. And then everything fell into place for her and the place of waking up and her condition and money. The girl covered her face with her hands and cried. Her mind began to flash back to the night before. She had been so drunk at the banquet that it had not been difficult for her companion to take her to a hotel and take advantage of her inebriated state. And the money was for extra favors. What had I done? Adriana was bitter and resentful. At 21, she'd never dated anyone before. She'd been waiting for the one person she'd be ready to marry and spend her life with. And now it appeared that her innocence, which she had cherished for so long, had not only been lost with the first man she met, but also sold. The student dining hall was as noisy as ever. "What's that?" asked Betty, her friend, when she saw the mashed potatoes and compote on the tray. "The cheapest thing on the menu. I'm broke again. I'm a week away from my scholarship," Adriana admitted. "It's inconvenient to ask my parents. They already pay for my dormitory, stationery. They also send me clothes." "I can see that," Betty snorted, looking at the gaudy outfit, the girl, jeans, t-shirt, cartoon prints of gray thick. Under her appraising gaze, Adriana felt embarrassed, but she really couldn't compare to the bright, beautiful Betty, who wore only the most fashionable branded clothes. To be honest, the girl always wondered where her friend got so much money from. Her parents were not that well off. When asked about the source of her wealth, Betty usually answered evasively and smiled enigmatically. "I was thinking of getting a part-time job, but I don't know if I can combine it with my studies. The shifts are so inconvenient everywhere." "Where are you going to get a part-time job?" Betty asked. "Picked a vitamin salad. There's a vacancy for a salesman in a bakery across the subway, but it requires a health book. They're also looking for an evening receptionist at a private dental clinic, but you have to work every day. It's not very convenient." Betty looked at Adriana once more, sighed, and stood up as if deciding something for herself. "Forget about those part-time jobs. I have a better offer." The girl sat in front of the laptop in the kitchen, in a bikini apartment. What did Adriana shriek in surprise? "She doesn't scream. That's how you stall for help," Betty decided. "Are you suggesting I work as a call girl?" "What's a call girl?" "It's an escort. There's a huge difference. You don't have to do any of that with a client, unless you want to. For an extra fee, do you?" Adriana opened her eyes, looked at her friend. Betty rolled her eyes. "What kind of prude are you? I'm not a prostitute. I just help rich people. It's nice to spend an evening in the company of a beautiful girl. They'll take you to a fancy event or a restaurant. They feed you, entertain you, and pay you money. It's a dream job. I don't believe it. Free cheese, as they say. Girlfriend, I've been doing this for 2 years. I've never had a problem. It's a trusted site. They only let decent, wealthy men in. You have no idea how much the access fee is, especially not for me. Where are they gonna get the money for that fee? I can't even buy a cutlet in the student cafeteria. You're an idiot. Only men pay. It's free for girls to post profiles. I don't know. So do you have a decent picture of you in a dress and makeup?" Betty ignored her friend's hesitant remarks and motioned to her laptop, which had a screen on it, a site for elite escort services, probably from the reunion. Yep, found it. Let's fill out the form now. 15 minutes later, Betty turned the laptop to her friend and threw herself on the back of a chair in satisfaction. Adriana read the questionnaire her friend had filled out for her. But I don't know Spanish perfectly. I can barely even speak English. Nonsense. Betty waved her hand. How many people in Russia even know Spanish? At most you'll say some similar gibberish. The main thing now is to make a confident expression on your face. Adriana looked at her friend with all her eyes. Today Betty had opened up to her from a completely unexpected side. I can't do that. I mumbled to the girl. You won't know until you try it, Betty declared. I'm not sure anyone's going to choose me. They're all so pretty. Adriana nodded at the pictures of the other girls in the dorm, all in sexy dresses. Everyone has their own tastes. You have a very pretty face. You've got a nice figure. Some just like such inexperienced modestly, went around constantly one silicone boobs and pumped up lips. Sooner or later you'll want something fresh. For a couple of days, Adriana worried, constantly remembering this questionnaire. What if someone she knew saw it? What would they think of her? But soon the credit week began, and the girl had other worries. So Betty's call came as a surprise to Adriana. Girlfriend, you've got a hit on your profile. The girl lowered her voice and straight to the receiver. A very rich man suggests you attend a charity auction on Friday night. What Friday? Adriana was dumbfounded. This Friday, which is tomorrow. But I have a philosophy exam on Saturday morning. Yes, I'm booked up for that exam. They offer so much money, you lie that you're sick and arrange a retake. I have to teach you everything. But I don't even have the right clothes, and I don't even know what they do at these auctions. I don't want to embarrass myself. Adriana, relax. I'll pick out your clothes. Don't even worry about the rest. No one expects you to have a highly intellectual conversation. You just have to stand next to your man and smile. Betty made it sound too easy. Adriana felt uneasy. She didn't want to go to any auction. She was intimidated by the prospect of talking to a strange grown man. But the need for money outweighed her concerns. Betty picked Adriana a long evening gown from her closet. The dress was of a velvet, pleasant to the touch fabric, pulling off looking but with a modest boat neckline. You're not going to a nightclub. She's a charity event, Betty said, picking out matching accessories. The girl took out a string of pearls and a pair of pearls from her jewelry box. Now all that's left to do is pick out the shoes and purse. Good thing we're practically the same size. Why are you standing there? Get undressed. We still have time to do your hair and makeup. Adriana took off her clothes and folded them neatly on the chair. What is this? Betty shrieked. Adriana looked down at herself and saw a slightly protruding tummy. Well, I'm sorry I don't go to the gym 3 times a week. That's not what I meant. You're going out in that underwear. What is it? Adriana took another look at herself. She was wearing a simple bra and cotton panties. You're offering a high-end service, which means everything has to be perfect, from the underwear to the tips of your fingernails. But you can't see anything underneath the dress. You don't understand. If you're wearing 100-cent underpants under an expensive dress, you're gonna feel and act like a 100-cent underpants. Don't you have a decent date night outfit? I'm not dating anyone. Tell me you're still a virgin. Betty grinned. Adriana didn't say anything. She blushed deeply. My friend looked at her and rolled her eyes. Somehow now, I feel like I'm sending a lamb into the wolf's den by taking this embarrassment off. I'll give you another. I have some unprinted sets of them. Thank you, Betty. What would I be without you? It's not a gift. Compensates me for the cost of what I earned. 3 o'clock later, Adriana was fully ready to go out in a dress with her hair put up in soft, large locks, with light evening makeup. Betty's closet was mostly high-heeled stiletto shoes, but Adriana girl picked up a pair of silver loafers on a low heel. You'll still be out of sorts, she explained. Here, Betty handed her friend a silver purse and a small mink cloth. It would be chilly in the evening, and the purse would contain all the essentials: wet wipes to freshen up for her mouth, some money, powder, and lipstick, in case you need to touch up your makeup. And condoms. What are condoms for? Rounded eyes. Adriana, you told me. I did. But just in case, we could use them as a rubber for money. Are you serious? Just kidding. Your jokes are weird. I'm nervous enough as it is. Do you have any valerian? I got something better. Betty took an open bottle of cognac out of the cabinet. One drink, to celebrate your first night out. Adriana took the shot glass her friend held out and drank a volley mouth and stomach. It burned with fire. The girl never drank such strong drinks, but now she was ready for anything. If it would help with the growing anxiety. Maybe cancel the whole thing. Better stay home and study for tomorrow's exam. How do you cancel? The client will be here in 10 minutes. You're gonna get banned from that site. They'll also lower my rating. You came on my recommendation, didn't you? I didn't know they had rules like that. Well, now you do. Relax, it won't be a big deal. There's a first time for everything. At least you get a chance to see how decent people live and have a decent meal at the same time. Just don't go for the food right away. Wait till everyone's had a drink, relaxed. After that, they'll pay less attention to you. The phone rang. The client's number popped up on the screen. He's here. Betty announced triumphantly. Let me take another look at you. The friend made the girl twirl. Well, everything seems to be in order. Can you join my daughter? Adriana exhaled. She still wasn't sure she was doing the right thing. Go ahead. Pushed her Betty out of her apartment. A few hours of embarrassment and $1,000 in your pocket. Adriana walked uncertainly out of the entryway, frantically clutching her purse, and down the ribbon. Not far away was parked a white Audi, next to which stood a middle-aged man in a tuxedo. The girl approached the car. Hello. Awkwardly, she said hello to Adriana. I'm Michael. And your middle name? The girl was embarrassed. Just Michael. That's not polite. Don't make me feel like an old man next to such a charming young girl. The man laughed. You're much prettier in person than in the photo. He bent down and gallantly kissed Adriana's hand. The girl winced at the compliment. This is not a good picture of me. Michael opened the back door of the Audi for her and helped her get situated inside. Afterward, he walked around the car and sat next to her. The driver started the car, and they drove off. The man noticed that the girl looked a little tense and decided to dispel their doubt. Don't worry, you look very good, he said with a smile. I just haven't been yet. Here, Adriana hesitated and thought that perhaps she shouldn't give away her inexperience at a charity auction so immediately. There was nothing special about it. The first part of the event will be the bidding. Paintings by contemporary artists will be on display. All the money raised will go to the Children in Need Foundation. I know its founder and have long supported his cause. After the auction, there will be a small banquet, after which you are free to go. The man looked at Adriana, but she was so nervous that she didn't pay attention to the way Michael emphasized the word can. This wonderful opportunity to not only enjoy the beautiful pictures, but also to do a good deed. I think you'll like it. On the whole, Michael gave the girl a pleasant impression. The man was about 45. He had masculine facial features and low velvet, clear voices for an honest back. Dark hair was slightly touched with gray. Michael talked about the activities of the charity all the way, and Adriana listened attentively and only nodded, glad she didn't have to keep the conversation going. The girl was nervous as they entered the hall where the auction would take place. She had never been to an auction before and didn't know what to expect. The hall was decorated in a classical style. There was molding everywhere, antique furniture and vases of flowers. A small stage was placed near one of the walls, on which stood an easel with canvases. The paintings were hidden by a black cloth, and only one canvas in the center was open to the audience. It depicted some chaotic interweaving of multicolored lines. "This is the most valuable painting at the auction," Michael explained when he noticed where the girl's gaze was directed. "Its author is a very promising young artist. His paintings are very popular right now." Adriana took another look at the painting and realized that modern art was definitely not her thing. Michael also found a place from where the scene was clearly visible. There were already quite a few people in the hall. They stood in small groups and talked, waiting for the start. Soon the auctioneer announced the start of the bidding. He took turns removing the cloth from the paintings, announced the names of the author and the starting price, and then those present could bid. Michael was also bidding for some of the paintings. Then he would lean to the girl's ear, explaining why he was interested in this or that painting. Adriana was more impressed by the amounts. The price on one of the paintings even exceeded a few 1,000,000. In the end, Michael won one of the paintings. "Congratulations, you have just become the owner of a masterpiece," said the auctioneer, congratulating the man. After bidding, the guests moved to a neighboring room where there were war servers and buffet tables. Here, too, there were high ceilings, columns, and crystal chandeliers. On the tables rose pyramids, champagne, plates with light appetizers and sweets. But what struck Adriana most of all was the transparent grand piano that stood on a small dais in the center of the room. "Did you enjoy the auction?" Michael asked. "Yes, it was very exciting," Adriana replied. "Although I confess that I don't know much about contemporary art. I like your honesty." The man smiled and winked at the girl. Few people in this room could openly admit that. Michael escorted Adriana to one of the tables. The man took a clean plate, transferred some pills onto it, and handed it to the girl. She hesitantly accepted the treat from his hands. "Try it. It's very tasty." The chef of a famous Michelin restaurant was invited especially for this event. Adriana looked at the cakes. They looked so fancy that they looked like a work of modern art. The girl took one from the salad basket and twirled it in her hands, hesitating to take a bite. "Don't be afraid. It's only food," Michael laughed. Ripped off by the man's words, Adriana took a small bite. She was really very hungry, as she was too nervous, and after breakfast she couldn't swallow another bite. After a while, the lights in the hall dimmed. She purposely under the candles. On the stage in the center came a singer who, accompanied by a grand piano, began to perform popular opera arias. Some of them were familiar to Adriana, though she wouldn't be able to answer who the author was or where they came from, so guests continued to shuttle from one table to another, gathering in small groups to socialize. Michael was periodically approached by other participants of the auction. They discussed with the man the auction of paintings, some business-related matters. Adriana did not listen to these conversations because she did not understand anything. She just stood nearby and smiled. At some point, the food on her plate was over and a passing waiter offered her champagne. Adriana didn't like this drink, but apparently it was because she had to try only cheap ones. The Soviet champagne here was surprisingly tasty. She didn't notice how. She drank several glasses. Who knew that drinking that much, almost on an empty stomach, would cause such disastrous consequences for her? For a while, the girl sat on the bed, covering her face with her hands. After calming down, she looked up again. "I found a note on the nightstand. Check out of the room at 12:00. Breakfast paid." Adriana stood up and listened to the sensations inside her body. Nothing seemed to hurt except her head. She dejectedly picked up her clothes and went to take a shower, opening the bathroom door. The girl froze on the threshold, hesitant to enter. The room, to her senses, was simply huge. One of the walls was a panoramic window, next to which stood a snow-white bathtub on golden legs in the shape of a lion's cotton. On the wall hung carefully prepared towels and robes. At the sink in wicker baskets were prepared shampoos, shower gel creams, and other grooming products. There was even a couch. Adriana wondered why would there be a couch in the bathroom. But apparently, the rich have their own quirks. The girl did not dare to take a bath. She limited herself to a quick shower. She used the disposable shampoo from the basket, but did not take a robe. She pulled on her clothes. A long evening gown was clearly an inappropriate outfit for early morning, but the girl had nothing else. Suddenly, there was a knock on the room. Adriana checked. The time was around 9 o'clock. She shouldn't be kicked out yet. She walked uncertainly to the door. Whose room service? Your breakfast. The girl hurriedly opened the door. A middle-aged woman in a maid's uniform put in a cart next to the table and moved the dishes one by one from the cart on the table. There was oatmeal porridge with fruit, scrambled eggs with a fried piece of bacon, lick cake. Would you like tea or coffee? Coffee. Adriana took a risk, if I may. The woman poured fresh brewed coffee from the coffee shop and a china cup. Bon appetit. The maid unfolded the cart and rolled it out of the room. It seemed to Adriana that at the last moment the woman cast a judgmental glance at her. Well, perhaps she just imagined it. The girl looked at the table. The dishes were so appetizingly beautiful that she couldn't resist. It was all paid for anyway. She couldn't throw it away. She calmed herself down and started eating. After a hearty breakfast, she didn't feel so bad anymore. It didn't feel like the end of the world anymore. Oh well, it wasn't that big of a loss. Adriana opened the banking app on her phone and looked at the $2,000 that had appeared in her account in one evening. Back at the hostel, Adriana took a cab back to her dorm. She removed the bedding on her clothes, carefully rolled them up, and put them in a bag along with her shoes, purse, and towel to return to her friend. She saw the missed calls from Betty, but Adriana didn't have the energy to talk to the girl right now. Tel would definitely start you asking for details about the client. And last night, Adriana climbed into bed, wrapped herself in a blanket, and slept till the evening. Betty couldn't stand it and drove to Adriana's dormitory by herself. On one hand, she was worried about her friend. On the other, she was bursting with curiosity. How did it go? The girls met at the nearest coffee shop. How did it go? Betty asked impatiently as Adriana handed her a bag of things. What was it? Well, last night, and the man I saw through the window. Looks good. Suave. The car's expensive, and it's chauffeured. It's okay. Adriana answered uncertainly. From the fleek from the glass. And that's it. Well, what else could be there? The girl looked out the window. She went with him to the event, went to the auction, then the banquet. Then she went back to the dorm. Didn't even have to talk to anyone. Just stood around. You're not hiding anything from me. Betty squinted suspiciously. No. What could I be hiding? Well, he's the one who didn't offer to go on at night. Adriana blurted out. But Betty didn't. Did she write off that reaction as embarrassingly stymied inexperience, girlfriends? No, he didn't. Adriana answered firmly. If he did, I don't remember it anyway, she added to herself. Too bad. What if you'd had a relationship? Do you think he would have gone out with an escort? Do you think many girls from simple families find rich husbands? I don't know. Men, they don't think with their heads. They think with their hands. The main thing is to meet, to hook up. And then, as it goes on, it can end up in marriage. Do you think they need educated, intelligent? The main thing is to be beautiful and not a log in bed. God, what are you talking about? Let's keep it down, whispered Adriana at her friend. What's the big deal? Betty, I don't want to get into a relationship for money or privilege. I'm not like that. I'm looking for love, not money. I'm not willing to sell my body or my feelings for a favor. Yeah, well, of course you're not. But how would you react if you met a real prince on a white horse? A prince on a white horse. Adriana grinned. That only happens in fairy tales. I don't know. Maybe he wouldn't be on a white horse, but in a white Audi. Betty winked. But if a rich guy told you he loved you, would you say no? No, I guess not. But it's not likely to happen. And you know what? Why don't we delete the profile from that site? I can't do that. I'd rather get a regular job that pays 10 times less. I just wanted to help you, but I guess I was wrong. Betty turned away and stared out the window. I'm sorry, Kostya. I appreciate your help, but it's my decision. I tried it and realized it wasn't for me. Well, how do you know? The girl looked at Adriana, pressing her lips together. Did he at least pay you in full? Yes, the full amount, don't worry. Well, at least your financial problems are solved for the near future. Adriana's life had moved on. She had no time to be upset. She was in the middle of taking exams and tests. She had to run after the philosopher to allow her to retake the exams. With the money she earned, she bought some clothes and good cosmetics, and the rest she put on her account. When the session was over, Adriana was finally able to relax. She did not want to return to her hometown, so she gathered her parents that she found a job for the summer, and she watched TV series all day long or went for a walk. The amount in her bank account allowed her to relax and not to look for a job. Somehow, Adriana came across an advertisement for a modern art exhibition. The girl immediately remembered the auction, which was, and suddenly decided that it would be nice to learn more about art, so as not to feel uneducated hillbilly. The next time, having come to the exhibition and paid the entrance ticket, Adriana went to the hall to wander a little. The girl began to regret coming here. She had absolutely no understanding of modern art. She dutifully approached each exhibit, read the title, and tried to understand what the artist wanted to say. But nothing came out. Holding up 6 strange constructions of metal tubes and garbage bags, she suddenly heard a voice behind her, interested in contemporary art. Adriana turned around and saw a tall, dark, bald guy, about 20 years old. "My name is Max." He introduced himself. Adriana hesitantly answered the girl. "I saw that you are very interested in this sculpture. Its author, by the way, is a good friend of mine. Are you an artist too?" "No," laughed the boy. "Just a connoisseur of beauty. To be honest, I don't know much about art, especially modern art. It's hard for me to understand it." "It's much simpler than it seems," Max smiled. "Would you like me to give you a tour? Do you work here?" "No, I'm a visitor like you. But going to an exhibition alone is a bit boring. Now I've got a chance to spend time with such a nice girl, and I've got a chance to show off my knowledge. You won't refuse my offer." "I won't." The young man was very handsome and polite, so Adriana accepted. Max led her through the whole exhibition, explaining in what direction each of the artists was working, what the paintings depicted, and why he considered this or that author worthy of attention. The girl listened to him with sincere interest. Max explained everything in an accessible language and with humor. After, the guy invited Adriana to have a snack in a pastry shop near the art gallery, and they continued to discuss art over a cup of coffee and a piece of cake. Discreetly, switching to you as it started to get dark, Max walked Adriana to the subway. "There's a new exhibition opening next weekend. Would you like to go?" he suggested. "It's free, and there would be a small buffet." Adriana gladly agreed. She wanted to continue her communication with Max, and this was a good reason to meet. "Would you come?" she asked. "Yes, it will be my friend's first solo exhibition. Have you seen one of his works? I have to come and support him today. I can invite a friend." The girl wasn't sure Betty would want to go to such an event, but she decided to ask in case someone would be interested in a free buffet and a chance to talk to a real artist. Of course, the more people the better. "Can you invite all your friends? I don't have anyone in this town but her." "I'll see you next week then." "Yeah, sure. Let's exchange numbers. Then we can call each other beforehand, and I'll pick you up in my car." Adriana sat with her friend at her favorite pizza place. They ordered one large of irony for 2 and drinks. "You're such an ass," Betty exclaimed. "You've been scammed into another date. Got your phone number and almost found out what address you live at. And you still don't get it. Don't be silly. He just invited me to his friend's art opening." "Yeah, sure," snickered her friend. "Now I totally have to go to that opening to see your boyfriend. You say he's cute, and he's got a car. That's not bad. Let's hope it's imported and not some Lada. Which one are you?" Betty gave me a questioning look. Mercantile. Who cares what make of car? The main thing is to have a good man. Betty rolled her eyes. Oh, I forgot that you are an adept of pure high love, and all worldly things are alien to you, but certainly not the first in importance. Suit yourself, it's a waste of time to argue with you. Betty stirred her cocktail in her glass with a straw. Saturday's still 4 days away. I'm gonna die of curiosity. You should at least take a picture of the guy. How can I take a picture of someone I just met? How? Secret. How are you doing, by the way? Adriana decided to change the subject. I thought you said you met a handsome guy at a club who took you for a ride in a Ferrari. Forget it. The Ferrari was a rental. I suspect the rest of his wealth and business stories. Lies. Imagine, I found out by accident I saw this Ferrari at a popular tire blogger's photo shoot, so maybe the cars just look alike. Exactly. Its color and most importantly, the license plate match. And in the post, there's a link to a rental company. I went to their website and saw this car in their catalog. I'm sorry. And now I talked to him. I also just blacklisted his number. He may be handsome, but I'm not wasting my time on some lowlife. Despite the harsh words, I looked sadly out the window and continued to mix, almost leaving ice cubes in my glass on the day of the event. Betty insisted on helping Adriana with her clothes and makeup. Otherwise, you'll still be going there in jeans and a fatty. Declared her friend from the doorstep. I'm not that stupid. I have a summer dress and a sweater. It's that salute to grandma's youth. Forget it. But why retro? Retro is kind of in this season's trendy length. I just brought you a couple of matching ones. Come on, get undressed. Let's measure. Adriana put on a long dress made of light, flying fabric with a floral pattern, and perfectly put on her white sneakers will be just right for summer. Do sneakers go with dresses? They do. They do now, and they wear sandals with socks. Betty was eyeballing the contents of the pay closet in the reindeer room. Here's one to put on top of that. She tossed her jacket into Adriana's hands with her jeans. Betty herself was in a dark blue dress and shirt that matched her red hair stunningly, and of course, stiletto heels. It seemed to Adriana that her friend walked only in stilettos and did not recognize other shoes. She even had winter boots with such heels. She sometimes envied Betty's graceful walk in them. She couldn't even take a couple steps herself. She'd be back, as her friend liked to tell her. What's the holdup? Your max is half an hour away, and you're not wearing makeup or hair. Betty sat the girl down in front of the mirror. He's not mine. Adriana corrected her. We'll look at the car and decide whether he should be yours or let it go by, although it's not a bad idea to run the license plate. There's a lot of crooks out there. The last incident must have hit Betty hard. She kept thinking about the Ferrari and its owner. Max called and said he was on his way. Adriana and Betty were stomping around the dormitory entrance when a white, shiny Lexus pulled up beside them. The latest model whispered loudly. Adriana's friend leaned in close to her very ear and poked her in the side with her elbow. I didn't know you were so good with cars. It's certainly more useful than the crap we took in the philosophy exam. The driver's side door opened, and Max emerged from the Lexus. Hi, the guy said hello. And you must be Adriana's friend. Yes, my name is Betty. The girl extended her hand to shake. Max is very nice to meet you. Adriana's told me a lot of things about you. Hopefully only good things, laughed the boy. You bet. The gala begins in half an hour, so we should hurry, Max gallantly. He opened the car doors, helping the girls to sit on the back passenger seat and Lena in front next to the driver. As the guy walked around the Lexus to get into his seat, Betty looked at Adriana through the rearview mirror, raising one eyebrow. Not a bad catch you got there, girlfriend. There you go again. Adriana blushed. Max got into the driver's seat, started the engine, and the car pulled smoothly into the street. Do you, Betty, like art? The boy asked. Actually, I'm studying to be an art historian. Oh, then you should really talk to Ethan. He's very interesting about his work. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. And you can tell us a little bit about his work?" Adriana asked in advance. "I'd rather not," Max replied. "You have to see and feel it for yourself." Ethan works in different genres and styles. Each of his works is a separate world that you have to explore and interpret for yourself. "It sounds very exciting," smiled Adriana. All the way Max amused the girls by telling funny stories from his life and the lives of his friends. The time flew by unnoticed. Finally, the car stopped. Already familiar Adriana building. Max helped the girls to get out, and together they went to the main entrance of the art gallery. The doors were open, but the passage was blocked by a red ribbon. "Wait," the guy said. "I'll go in and say hello to Ethan and ask him to let you in early before the opening." The girls stayed on the steps, with small groups of people standing on the wide porch. Apparently, they'd come to the event too. Some were dressed smartly, and some were dressed rather oddly. "That's fashionable now, too," Adriana whispered to Betty, nodding toward a girl dressed in a chocolate and purple hoodie, green tights, and bright orange shoes. A headband with large delirious flowers completed the picture. "No," her friend also whispered back to her. "Probably some kind of artist. Creative people often have rather strange tastes, and they don't follow fashion." Max came back and beckoned them inside. "Come on in. The opening's a little delayed. There's a slight problem with the lighting in the main hall, but they've promised to fix it in the next 10 minutes. In the meantime, you can sit down, relax, get your drinks, and they're serving cocktails. I could use a hit right about now." Betty took a seat on the gray cube of concrete that played the role of a banquet here. "No," laughed Max. "There's only plain water, mineral water, and morsels. Later at the buffet, there will be champagne and diarrhea. Well, we'll have to be patient and wait for the buffet." The girl took an advertising booklet from the nearest counter and began to study it. Adriana walked over to Max and whispered quietly to him, "Just don't take offense at Betty. She's just kidding." "I don't take offense. I've already realized it's her usual way of talking. She's a very interesting young lady. Ethan likes that kind of girl. Maybe they'll hit it off. Oh, I don't know. Betty has very high standards for guys." "Max, you're not alone tonight." There was a man's voice behind me. The young men turned around. "Adriana, Betty, this is Ethan, the artist we're here to see. Nice to meet you. I hope you enjoy it. No tomatoes, no eggs. I'm against the waste of food. If you don't like something, you better write about it in the book. I'm happy to read anything." Ethan was dressed in ripped jeans, a t-shirt, stretchy gray cardinals, and white, leather sneakers in multicolored paint stains. The image was completed with a long scarf wrapped around her neck several times. "It's a pleasure to meet you," Adriana said. "Congratulations on the opening of the exhibition." Betty, to the girl's surprise, remained silent. She didn't even get up and walk over, but only looked at the young artist from afar with a strange expression on her face. "Ethan has been fixed. Can we start?" the girl shouted, looking back from the hall. "Great. Everyone's been waiting for this." After the opening ceremony and ribbon cutting, the guests scattered in groups around the room. Betty immediately left Adriana and Max alone, deciding that she would not interfere with the couple's relationship. After looking around the exhibit and taking a glass of champagne from the magic table, the girl went out onto the porch. Her mood today was riddled with trouble, and the culprit for this was suddenly behind the girl Betty's back. Ethan called out to her. The girl continued to stare off into the distance, ignoring the guy. "Maybe we could talk. I thought we had a very nice evening then and liked each other. But you suddenly started ignoring me and added me to your blacklist. I don't want to impose, but just tell me what I did wrong. And you don't even realize it." Betty turned sharply toward Ethan and folded her arms across her chest, staring at him with one eyebrow raised. "If I did, I wouldn't be coming at you like this. Girl, I'm a cheater. Don't want no business with you." She tried to walk past him back into the gallery, but the guy held her hand with the boys. "When have I ever cheated myself?" At least with the Ferrari. It's not your car. I never said it was mine. Renting a car, it's not a crime anymore. It's renting a car, dressing up nice, and making up lies about some successful business. That's fraud. Ethan grinned. But who's to blame if girls want to meet successful businessmen instead of artists? Betty squinted his eyes. What are you implying? I'm not. Just stating a fact. Anything with a Ferrari. Then you wouldn't even look in my direction. The girl looked him right in the eye. Yeah, I'm looking for a rich guy. I don't think an artist can provide. I need a standard of living. Why? If an artist, then at once beggar and hungry would be not beggar, you would have your own Ferrari, not rented. The girl wrenched her hand away, tucked her chin, and walked past Ethan. The guy looked at her and grinned. After the event, Max offered to take the girls home. But Betty refused. First of all, she didn't want to disturb the young people, who clearly felt sympathy for each other. And secondly, she wanted to unwind and get rid of the heavy feeling in her soul. The girl went to the embankment, bought coffee at a stall, found a bench to sit on. Looking at the river, the evening breeze, pondered her face, and played with the former from the hairstyle tousled. Betty ate, lived. It was getting chilly, and suddenly her jacket fell over her shoulders, and Ethan sat down next to her. Betty turned away from him in the opposite direction, but she didn't throw off her jacket. The girl was really cold, and the jacket immediately warmed her with someone else's warmth, as if she had found herself in a hug. The guy did not try to talk to her, but just sat next to her. That's how they spent almost half an hour in complete silence. The coffee was knocked out, but Betty kept holding the long frozen cup. Let me walk you out. Ethan finally broke the silence. Again with the rental car. Betty grinned. No, today I can only walk to the bus stop or the subway. The girl stood up. She took a few steps and turned around. So, we're sitting. Let's go already. Max and Adriana began to communicate more often. They exchanged messages every day. And sometimes Max invited Adriana for a date to the movies, to a jazz night, to dinner in a cafe, or just for a walk around the evening city. Each time the guy accompanied the girl to the dormitory, where they parted, promising to write to each other the next day. This evening Max and Adriana stopped not far from the entrance hall. Today they were at a youth theater production, and afterwards they walked the streets darker with sky, talking, laughing, and exchanging gentle, as if casual touches. They didn't want to part from each other at all. But in Adriana, we had a strict curfew in our dormitory. Max stood in front of the girl and took her hands. Adriana, I would like to ask you something very important. Yes, the girl's heart fluttered in sweet and deadly anticipation. It seems to me that we are very well suited for each other, and I would like to propose you to date not as we are now, but already as a couple. Adriana was so happy that she immediately agreed. The young people embraced each other warmly in the cool evening air. Then Max gently pulled away, leaned towards the girl, and kissed her tenderly. It was a very light, gentle, and almost innocent kiss. Girl, you come in. The gruff voice of the janitor broke their embrace. The young people bounced away from each other, blushing. On closing up, Run, Max said to the girl. Text me. Yeah, sure. Adriana waved him off and ran into the dormitory while the janitor took the door. The girl from behind the glass partition sent Max an air kiss. He pointed to his smartphone. Once again, I reminded Adriana to remember to send him a message, to which the girl nodded and smiled happily. On Sunday, Adriana woke up feeling dizzy and nauseous. What's wrong with me? She thought. I must have eaten too much. Yesterday evening, Max took her to a new pastry shop. There were such amazingly delicious cakes that the girl couldn't resist and ate 3 of them. The girl took a digestive pill, but she didn't feel any better. She continued to feel sick. After lunch, Adriana began to sort through her textbooks. Some of them needed to be returned to the university library. She looked at the calendar and suddenly realized that 5 days ago, she was supposed to get her period. The girl sat on her bed in a daze, afraid to even think about what that could mean. Suddenly, the phone rang. It was Max. Adriana picked up the phone with shaking hands. "Hello, baby." She heard the gentle voice of her lover. "Do you want to go for a walk? It's beautiful weather today, and there's a concert in the open air in the park." "I'm sorry, I don't feel well. I'd rather stay home." "Okay, feel better. Do you need to buy some medicine?" "No, thanks. There's a drugstore just down the street. I was just about to go there." "Oh, okay. But if you need anything or if you get worse, just call me and I'll be right over." "Thank you. I love you. I love you too, babe." Adriana didn't even realize how she'd gotten to the pharmacy and back. Everything seemed unreal. She went to the bathroom and took the package with the pregnancy test out of the bag. Shaking hands, opened it and read the instructions. The few minutes of waiting seemed almost an eternity to Adriana. She looked at the test and her insides shivered. 2 strikes. The girl sat down on the tile on the floor. What was she going to do now? How could this be? She thought that night in the hotel had long been left behind and forgotten as a terrible dream. But that monstrous mistake came back to her. Adriana repeated the test, almost not hoping for a different result, and when she saw 2 strikes again, she cried. "I really am pregnant." She realized she wasn't ready for motherhood. Does not know how to explain to her parents what happened and where is the father of the baby and what to say to Max. Adriana made an appointment with a gynecologist after an ultrasound and taking all the tests. The girl came to the appointment again. "What are we going to do?" "We leave it," asked the doctor and looked at Adriana. The girl did not understand the question. "Do you want to keep the baby or abort it?" "I don't know." "Who knows?" "Girl, this is your child. Not my father was informed." "Not yet." Adriana was ashamed to admit that there was no father. "Well, there is, but she knows nothing about this man except his name." "Well, talk to him and decide together. There's still time until 12 weeks. In the meantime, let's get you registered. Go down to the registrar's office, and you'll be registered." Adriana came out of the women's clinic with exchange cards and a pack of referrals for tests in her hands. She was still in a daze. When she checked her phone, she saw 14 missed calls from Max and a lot of messages. After that conversation on Sunday, Adriana had stopped answering him. She didn't know how to talk to him now and look him in the eyes when she met him. The girl hesitated for a long time, but decided to call her friend to meet her at their favorite cafe. She just didn't know anyone else she could tell about her situation. "What?" exclaimed Betty, and other customers began to turn in their direction. "You're pregnant. Can you yell any louder? So everyone can hear for sure." And you smirked faster, girlfriend. "Does Max know yet?" "No, of course not. I don't even know how to tell him." That's the biggest problem. This is such a chance to marry a rich guy. Or do you think he's gonna be against the baby? That's not the point. The baby's not his cookie, Adriana admitted. "No, it's not." A friend was stunned. "Wow. It turns out there's a lot more to it than meets the eye. Who else did you hook up with?" "You didn't tell me." "Spit it out." "I'm not embarrassed about it." That Adriana was silent, trying to gather her courage. "A client. But the one I went to the charity auction with." "Wow, Betty. You said you didn't agree to sleep with him." Adriana cringed at the frank wording. "I didn't. I wasn't lying about that. But I was very drunk." The girl covered her face with her hands. "I woke up in a hotel room. Alone. And I don't even remember how it happened. He paid me, if that's what you're wondering. God, it was like I was in a soap opera." Betty finished drinking her juice in one gulp. "What are you gonna do now?" "Go find that client and get him to make it up to me. That way he'll say I agreed to it. But you know, a grown man should know how to protect himself and be responsible in case of something. I'm not gonna look for him. He's a complete stranger to me. He'll think I'm a fraud. But I'll have to part with Max too." "You're crazy. Just get an abortion." "No. What are you doing?" "I can't do that. I've thought about it. but I can't. Oh, Adriana. Then tell Max it's his baby. Yeah, I've known him for less than 4 weeks. How can that be possible? Don't tell me you haven't had one yet. Adriana turned away and looked out the window with the cool rich guy. You're all hand-holding. And with some strange man she got drunk the first night and went to a hotel. Don't waste your breath. I feel bad enough as it is. If you want to keep this baby, you just have to seduce Max right away. There's still time. And then you can say he was born prematurely. I don't think it's possible to hide the doubt in her voice. Adriana said, men don't know shit about this whole women thing. Just go to the doctor. Don't show your medical records. What if it comes out later that I lied? That would be even worse. Well, when it does, then you can deal with it. No, Betty, I can't do that. I'm gonna call Max and tell him we're gonna have to break up with the baby. I'll manage somehow, and I'll take one. I'll get a part-time telecommuting job. I still have some of that money left in my account. Oh, Adriana, if I were you, I wouldn't let this opportunity go. But you're not in my place, sadly said the girl. Adriana couldn't get herself together all evening. She walked around the room, finding one thing to do and another to do. The girl had already decided that she would talk to the guy the next morning. But suddenly Max called herself. She stared at the phone for a long time, hesitating to answer the call. Hey baby, how are you doing? Hey, what's wrong? Do you sound sad? He asked. No, I'm just tired. I decided to do the assignment they gave us for the vacation. Studying is important, of course, but you should pay attention to rest. That gentle, caring tone. Tears came to Adriana's eyes. She really loved Max, and the thought of a forced separation made her heart clench. My father received an invitation to the Philharmonic for the performance of a famous symphony orchestra. He can't go, so I'm inviting you. The concert will be on Saturday evening. Adriana gathered more air into his chest and exhaled. I'm sorry, I can't go with you. I understand, baby, if you're tired, you really should rest in a more peaceful environment. Then what day can we see each other? I've missed you so much. I'm afraid we can't see each other anymore. Max, I want to break up, which the guy didn't immediately realize. Wait, Adriana. I don't understand what happened. I did something wrong. But can you just tell me? No, it's like this. You're wonderful, and I'm grateful for the time we spent together. I've really had a lot of fun with you, but this is about me. I don't want to continue this relationship, so I suggest we break up before it goes too far. On our last date. That's not what you said. Things are different now. I'm sorry, Max. I'm really sorry. I think you can easily find someone better than me. Adriana pressed the red cancel button and added Max's number to her blacklist. After that, the girl fell on the bed and cried bitterly. That evening, Betty chose her outfit especially carefully. She looked herself in the mirror, expensive branded dresses, intricate hairstyles, light, evening makeup, shoes, of course, on stiletto heels. Everything, in her opinion, looked perfect. The girl snorts. Who did I work so hard for tonight? She asked her reflection. God, Betty, I think your standards have dropped. The phone rang. The contact was saved by Betty as a cheater without a Ferrari. The girl didn't bother to answer the call, but picked up her purse and jacket and walked out of the apartment. A bright yellow Lamborghini was waiting for her downstairs. Seeing it, Betty rolled her eyes. She walked around the cars and sat next to the driver. Ethan was wearing his now familiar black jacket with a t-shirt and jeans today. Where shall we go? You choose. The girl turned away to the window. You might not be able to afford what I suggest. Probably spent all of it on the rental car. So I get to choose. Ethan smiled slyly. Betty turned to the guy, squinting his eyes. There was clearly a catch in his words. Half an hour later, the girl regretted that she had let things go. Ethan had taken her to a place on the outskirts of town where she could park close to the shore. And now, holding paper bags of fast food, was walking down the rocks toward the water. A disgruntled Betty stopped next to the car. Even if the girl wanted to walk up to the shore, she couldn't. She was in stilettos. "Is this that kind of revenge?" asked the girl as Ethan walked back to the car. "Do you want me to break my legs?" "Revenge. You're right. But we'll do without broken legs," replied the guy. "Ouch," shrieked Betty, when Ethan picked her up in his arms and carried her. "What are you doing?" "Saving your legs and heels," laughed the guy. Betty blushed at how tightly he held her against him. After a minute, Ethan set her down on the sand by the water. The concrete slab was already covered with snacks, coffee cups, and soda cans. "I don't eat this stuff," Betty said, sitting down on the edge. "It's got a crazy amount of calories." "It's your right," Ethan said, to take a bite out of the hamburger. "We poor artists don't have a choice." Betty looked around. They were alone, but judging by the number of abandoned bottles, this place was frequented, which wasn't surprising. The view from here was marvelous. The scarlet sunset was already burning. Dusk was thickening and the burning lights of the city on the opposite shore were getting brighter. A cool breeze ruffled her hair. Betty shivered as she shivered from behind her plaid jacket. She glanced at Ethan, who was appetizingly, "Yes," and gave her hamburger. "All right, what else you got there?" The guy laughed and handed the girl a bag of fries. She picked up on a few slices and sent them into her mouth. "I'm just hungry. I'm not going to be able to eat at a restaurant tonight, by the looks of it." "How do you know that all of a sudden?" "I have a restaurant next." "Oh, come on." Betty waved her hand and unwrapped the hamburger, which seemed the smallest. After dinner on the beach, Ethan drove Betty to an old building in the center of town. "What are we doing here?" the girl inquired wearily. "Don't worry, I'm not some maniac. I just wanted to show you my workshop." We had to go up to the top floor on foot. There was no elevator. Betty once again cursed Ethan to himself. When she picked out her shoes today, she hadn't imagined she'd be in for such an ordeal. The guy opened the door and invited Betty to enter. The girl was amazed. Stepping over the threshold, she found herself in a large room. The walls that were painted with bright colors. On the floor were sculptures made of metal and wood. Some of it was hidden by cloth. Other paintings were set against the walls. In one corner stood a sofa, a dresser, and next to it a table and several antique chairs. Bend their legs from the high ceiling, decorated with moldings hanging luxurious crystal chandelier. In this room, the antique and modern were surprisingly harmoniously combined. "Come on in, you can keep your head down," nudged Ethan, frozen on the threshold of the girl. "If you want the bathroom, the room, it's to the right." He pointed to an orange door that one might not immediately notice. In such a chaotic environment, Betty decided to take advantage of the offer. When the girl returned to the room, Ethan had already managed to get the wine out, arranged the fruit, cheese. All this he put on the table, covered above with a tablecloth. "Please," he invited the girl in. Betty sat down on the couch and looked at the guy suspiciously. "Is that so? Have you been seducing your sitters here?" "No, there are no models here." Ethan laughed. "I'm an abstractionist. It's not like you're inviting them for inspiration. I prefer other sources of inspiration." The guy handed Betty a glass of wine. The girl accepted it and prepared it. The wine was fruity, very tasty. "Ethan," he sat down next to her and chugged his glass lightly with the ocean. The guy relaxed, leaned back on the back of the couch and sipped his wine, looking intently at the girl that defiantly she asked him, trying to hide the awkwardness. "I thought I understood those artists who are inspired by a woman's beauty." He suddenly moved closer to the girl. Betty looked into his eyes and felt her heart begin to beat faster. Not that she didn't understand how such invitations to come over for tea, much less a glass of wine, usually ended. To be honest, Betty didn't mind this development. Ethan was very handsome, after all. But now was the moment when she had to decide whether to refuse tactfully, get up and leave, or let things go. The girl closed her eyes and felt a warmth touch her lips, flavored with wine. When Ethan woke up, Betty was already getting dressed. The guy stood up and helped her reach the zipper of the dress in the back. Afterward, he leaned over and gently kissed the girl's naked shoulder. "When are you going to be free?" Betty next freed herself from his arms, fixed her hair, and turned around. "I think we should stop now. You're a nice guy. But that's not what I expect from a relationship with a man. I thought we liked each other. Yes, our relationship got off to a bit of a bad start, but I don't want to build a relationship on emotions and feelings alone." Emotions were a little unreliable from Betty's point of view. She remembered the fondness they had for each other. Her parents, how her father constantly professed his love for her mother and gave her bouquets, but that didn't stop him from having a mistress and then leaving the family. When Betty turned 11 during the divorce, he demanded to divide a cozy 3-room apartment in which with such love and care her mother made repairs, selected wallpaper, furniture, curtains, and other small things. After the exchange, they ended up in a neglected 2-bedroom where a couple of Alkies used to live. Betty still remembered how they spent a week just to clean their new place of residence. It had been a long time since the girl had been able to call her new apartment home, and the pain of her father's betrayal still lingered in the back of her mind. And Betty swore to herself that she would not build her family on such a shaky foundation as love. "I have other plans. Sorry." She picked up her purse from the table and headed for the exit. After a while, the guy heard the door slam. Ethan's first impulse was to hold her back, but he was immediately overcome with both resentment toward Betty and disgust at himself. Girls who judged men by their status and wealth had always made him squeamish, but now he had fallen in love with one of them, and so much so that he was willing to forgive her anything. "But what did she have to do with you?" he asked himself. "You're a fool, Ethan. There are tons of them around. Take your pick." His gaze fell on the blank canvases against the wall. He had 2 ways in his life to discharge the accumulated emotions. To keep them inside, he had no strength to go to a nightclub or to paint. Clubs weren't working right now, so that left the second option. The guy rummaged through the dresser, pulling out old sweatpants and a t-shirt. He got dressed, put a box of paints in front of a blank canvas, and froze with a brush in his hands. He closed his eyes, trying to more accurately visualize the elusive image that had arisen in his head. Adriana was well aware that locking Max's phone was not enough. The guy knew where she lived, so the girl decided to leave before the beginning of the next semester to her hometown to her parents. She packed all the necessary things, called Betty to warn about her departure, and went to the train station. She bought the tickets right there. On the train, Adriana thought about how her parents would take the news of her situation. They were simple and somewhat conservative people. For them, the pregnancy of an unmarried daughter could be a blow. The girl pondered over how to tell Mulno about her situation gently, but she couldn't think of anything. The train pulled up to the station, and Adriana stepped onto the platform. Here she was met by her father. He helped her carry her suitcase to the car. As soon as she got into the old Lada, she immediately felt at home. "Where's Mom?" Adriana asked. Decided she'd rather stay and set herself up some pastries. "Dad started the car. Something must have happened for you to come back so suddenly. The coffee shop where I was working closed down. I couldn't find a new place. I thought I might spend the rest of the summer in my hometown. It was the right thing to do. Your mother got really upset when you said you weren't coming back for winter vacation. The last time was a year ago. She really missed you. Did I miss you too?" "Very much." 20 minutes later, they were home. "Oh, Adriana, we're so glad you're back, aren't we?" Her mother shook her arms and hugged her. "Me too." Adriana snatched her mother with her hands and felt the defense in her eyes as the women pulled away. "Come on, get undressed. We hands and pass. I'm here pies and Staples your favorite with cherries." "Dad has already told," smiled the girl. Naturally, the treats were not limited to pies. Adriana was poured a plate of dark red thick borscht with a big spoonful of country sour cream. For the second was a huge fried potatoes, sachkam, and mushrooms A to T. In addition to the promised pies, 2 kinds of 2 carcasses with cottage cheese and stew. In the evening, her mother helped the girl to arrange her things. Adriana hesitated, but realized that she could not and put off this conversation for long. "Mom, I wanted to tell you something. Just don't worry." The woman put her hand to her chest, sat down on the bed. "That's the kind of warning that makes me worry the most. Do you owe anyone money?" Sam's neighbor's son borrowed some money and couldn't pay it back. So his parents got a visit from those adjusters. They must be the debt collectors. "No, Mom, I don't owe anybody anything." This is a different me. I told my mother Sam's story, and she forgot what she wanted to say. Anyway, pregnant. I'm like this. Adriana sat next to her mother on the bed in the usual way everyone gets pregnant. "How come, daughter?" And the institute. The girl thought that they would start asking about the father of the child. But the first thing that worried the woman was Lenina's studies. What to do with him now? "Nothing. I'll take him as one. Or can I transfer to a correspondence course?" Or the girl sighed, doomed to have an abortion. The term still allows. "What abortion? You're crazy," shrieked the mother and covered her mouth with her hand, cowering at the closed door, behind which in the living room the father was watching soccer on TV. "You have to have a baby, if that's the way it is." The woman went to the door, looked out, made sure her husband was so engrossed in the match that he couldn't hear anything around him, and returned to Rick. "Who's the father of the baby?" "He's a nice guy, though." "No father." "Well, he doesn't know, and I'm not going to tell him. He'll want an abortion for sure." "Oh, my daughter, that's the situation. But don't worry, we'll help you with everything." The woman put her arm around her daughter's shoulders. "You just don't tell him yet, because he's a man with a temper. I'll think of a better way to tell him." Adriana warmed and relaxed in her mother's embrace. She snuggled up to her mom, resting her head on her shoulder. "Mom, I missed you so much. I missed you so much." Her mother soothingly stroked the girl's back. The new order from the website arrived just in time. Betty was running out of money. Tonight she had to escort her regular client to some anniversary party. The theme of the evening was the sea. That's why Betty chose a dress with blue and turquoise stitched on it. She complemented it with a pearl garniture. Today she did not collect her hair in a hairstyle, but made it large, soft, localized. Completed the image of a mermaid, makeup blue with green shadows and glitter. The girl came down to the waiting car 10 minutes later than the agreed time. Here at last, and my Michaelia joyfully met her full of cotton candy. Already a novice from the network, a man in his 50s. "Jack, you know very well that girls need a lot more time to get ready," shook her dark copper mane Betty. "I'm not judging." The man put his arm around her, wiped her down, and escorted her to her car. "We can't be too late for tonight. The banquet will be held on the ship." While the driver drove the car lively at the evening face to the pier, Jack told Betty details about the upcoming event. "Today is the anniversary of my old buddy Benjamin. He owns a chain of business centers and several hotels. He runs the business centers himself. He's kind of handed the hotel business over to his son. Benjamin likes exotic things, so don't be surprised. Every birthday guests have a surprise. Last time they brought a real elephant and a couple of circus lions to the banquet. This year it's a nautical theme. I don't know what we can expect today. I don't think it will be limited to one ship." The guests were greeted by the staff on the rowdy, old Russian costumes. A string quartet accompanied by Betty was already performing on the open deck. Jack came up to congratulate the Jubilee and also said hello to a few acquaintances. Afterward, he let the girl go free, saying that he had something to discuss with his business partners. Betty went to the magic tables that were bursting with caviar fish appetizers, oysters, and other seafood. Actually, food was her main entertainment at such events. Everyone was well aware of the real status of young granddaughters and nieces under aging men. Sometimes she caught interested glances, but getting acquainted and flirting with someone was the epitome of customer time. Betty found it unacceptable the quality of service allowed her to retain some dignity. I didn't expect to meet a beautiful mermaid on this ship today. Betty flinched when she heard a familiar voice. The girl turned around in a panic and met Ethan's gaze. He was thoroughly primped today, dressed in a dark blue shirt, a strict white suit and shoes that had been cleaned to a shine. If she hadn't heard him at first and seen him, she probably wouldn't have recognized him right away. So different was his appearance now from the image of the artist to which Betty was accustomed. "What are you doing here?" "Same as you. Going to eat casually," the guy replied and began to pile delicacies onto his plate. "That's not what I'm asking. You're asking about how a poor artist could end up at an event like this. I have sponsors too," Ethan grinned. "Not as many as you, though." Betty frowned. "I'm in no mood to be lectured by you. I thought we decided everything the last time. You're the only one who's decided. All my efforts to build a relationship turned out to be nothing before your plans to find a successful man. Now I see how you're going about it. This coming from someone who uses deception. To meet girls, a girl has lowered one eyebrow. I'm not using deception, just adjusting to the situation." The guy put shrimp in his mouth. "Oh, that's what they call it now. Okay, let's not talk about that. I wanted to talk to you because last time you never let me have my say." "Why?" "It's not gonna change anything." "How do you know?" "Maybe we should give each other another chance." "No, Ethan, I've already explained what I want, and you're not the right guy for me. You're going down the wrong path. Where's the guarantee that marrying someone rich will make you happy? Happiness is different for everyone. My happiness is living without needing money. I think you're trying to fool yourself." Betty couldn't continue this painful conversation and thought of nothing better to do than run to the bathroom. "I'm sorry, I need to step away." She sat in the stall for about 5 minutes trying to regain her senses. Betty didn't want to admit that Ethan wasn't just attracted to her, but had a much stronger hold on her. The morning after the first night, she realized that she had made a mistake in thinking she could give this relationship a chance in the format of easy, non-burdensome encounters. The claw had gotten stuck, and the whole bird was lost, as her grandmother used to say. Betty didn't want to get bogged down in a futile relationship with a young artist, missing a good opportunity. While she was still young, when the girl returned to the Ethan Hall, she could no longer see the lights dimmed there. And the solemn part of the event began. On the small, brightly colored sacred stage came the announcer. Betty felt someone touch her elbow. It turned out to be Jack. In one hand, he held a glass of champagne, and with the other he put his arm around the girl's waist. She sighed. It would be nice if to Ethan's looks she could add financial security to Jack, who had a network of car dealerships. Such a thing was only possible in soap operas. It was the only thing she could do. I grinned at my thoughts, girl. After a small musical introduction, the host announced, "And the first to congratulate, I invite the son of our Jubilee." There was a round of applause. A young man in a dazzling white suit came on stage. Betty stood there in shock. Don't believe it. It was Ethan. The girl couldn't understand how an artist could be the son of a big businessman. It appeared that he hadn't lied during their first meeting at the club. "Here's Ethan. I've told you about him before," Jack whispered in her ear. "The only heir and the groom." The banquet was nearing its end. The boat has long since returned to the pier, and the guests began to leave. When Betty and Jack approached the waiting car, the man bowed gallantly and kissed the girl's hand. "Michael, thank you for once again gracing my evening. Would you like to continue our conversation in a more intimate setting?" "Jack, I'm sorry. I can't tonight. I'm sorry." By refusing, Betty risked losing a loyal customer. But her mood tonight was in no mood for such a continuation. "It's all right." The man patted her arm comfortingly. "I understand. Let Alex and I take you home." When the car was almost to Betty's house, she asked him to stop. "You can drop me off here. I want to get some fresh air." "Are you sure, Michaelia?" "Don't worry, Jack. It's just a short walk from my house. I've had too much to drink. I want to air it out. The girl said goodbye to the client, threw on her shoulders a light shawl, which almost is not warm, and walked along the embankment. Suddenly, a car braked sharply beside her, and the girl involuntarily looked at it. It was a silver Porsche. Ethan was in the driver's seat. "Why are you following me?" Wanting to make fun of how one foolish girl was lucky enough to meet a rich guy. She blew that chance by taking him for a pauper. "Go ahead." Betty turned away and walked forward. The car moved very slowly behind her. "No, I didn't mean to make fun of you at all." The girl was walking on the Porsche, the turtle. The speed followed her. It all resembled a scene from some cheap melodrama. Finally, Betty stopped and turned around to Ethan, folding her arms across her chest. The guy got out of the car and came closer. "So what are you, a businessman or an artist squinting?" Looked up at him. Ethan hesitated and laughed. "We have to pick one or the other." "If that's the case, I guess I'm a businessman. And painting is a hobby. That's the deal I made with my father. I take over part of the family business, but what I do in my spare time, he stays out of it. He and I had a huge fight when instead of applying to economics, I ran away and applied to the art academy. We didn't speak for 5 years, and he deprived me of my content. He kept waiting for me to come running to him. I didn't." Ethan chuckled. "It was hard, but I finished the academy. And then, apparently, my mother managed to talk him down, and he offered this compromise. 'This car is yours.'" Betty suddenly asked, nodding at the supercar. "No, it's a rental again." Ethan pulled a plastic card from his inside jacket pocket. "I'm a member of the VIP car club. Why buy one car when you can try a little bit of everything? By the way, that Ferrari has a month's worth of reservations." That's how Betty puckered his lips. "I still think it's cheating." There was silence between them again. Betty stepped awkwardly from foot to foot. Ethan of EP left the hair on the back of his neck. It must be hard to run a business and still find time to create. It's hard to find people you can trust. If you have them, you can delegate some of the tasks to them. For our hotel chain, we managed to find such people. I just have to find them in my personal life. Ethan looked at Betty. "You're in the wrong place." The girl grinned. "You know my priorities. But you're being honest about it. Instead of playing the saintly simplicity of falling in love at first sight. Usually mercantile goals are hidden behind a fake interest in my personality." Ethan stepped closer and took Betty's hand. "Will you be my girlfriend?" he asked. I don't know. This is so awkward right now and wrong. After everything I've said to you, let's forget about everything and start from the point where we just like each other." Betty cried. The guy pulled her in and started soothing her, stroking her back. "It looks like I changed my mind for money. Finding out your true origins." "Calm down," stepped Betty's nose. Ethan laughed. "I don't care. The important thing is that we're together now." He hugged the girl tighter and pulled her against him, as if afraid she'd run away. Max tried to call Adriana many times, but quickly realized that his number was simply blocked. She didn't answer calls from other people's numbers either. The hostel told him that she was gone until September. They didn't know where she'd gone. Most likely, home. The young man was already desperate and thought that he would have to wait until the beginning of the school year to see the girl. But then at one of the banquets he met his friend Ethan in the company of Olenin and his girlfriend Betty. Max rushed to the girl and grabbed her hands. "Do I need you?" Ethan pushed his friend away from Betty. "I'm very close to you, sure, but I'm not going to let you hit on my girlfriend. You misunderstand. I need her help. I need to get in touch with Adriana. She's not answering calls or texts. She's away for the summer." Betty shook her head. "I'm sorry, Max, but I can't help you there. You really don't know where she is." Ethan asked her and looked the girl straight in the eye. But she was embarrassed. "Maybe I don't know, but she's a friend of mine. She's having some problems that she doesn't want to tell others about. I respect her desire to be alone." Max looked pleadingly at the girl. "Betty, please. This is very important to me. If she has a problem, I can help with that. But I don't know. Ethan realized that the girl was getting weak and was about to give up. Vic, you saw how good things were with Adriana. She was so happy with Max. It must be something serious, since she left everything so suddenly. It's really serious, but it's definitely not something I can tell them, Betty thought. But when she saw Max's eyes like a murdered puppy, she gave up. Max traveled to Adriana's hometown in his car. It took him 4 o'clock to get there. He checked into the hotel, took up his suitcase number, and went straight to the address Betty had given him. He didn't understand why the girl had decided to break up with him so suddenly and wanted to talk to her in person. If she wanted to break up with him, then let her repeat it, looking him in the eyes. She may be in some kind of trouble or problem. The family needs a street and a house. Max was able to find it with the navigator, but Betty didn't know the apartment, and he wouldn't dare show up at her place like that. There's no telling how her parents would react, so the guy parked near the house and waited. The good thing is that there were only 3 entrances, and the courtyard was quiet and not crowded. He waited until late afternoon, but Adriana never showed up. Max was about to return to the hotel when he saw a girl coming out of the first entrance. Adriana ironed the linens. Despite her mother's protests, she took up the task of helping out around the house, which distracted her from her longing for Max and her anxious thoughts about the future. Adriana. Mother came into the room. We're out of bread. I can't get my dad to buy some on the way. So runs away, and good for us. The girl turned off the iron. She did not change her clothes, only took the bags and purse. The girl hadn't gotten far from the entryway when she heard a familiar voice. Her name was Adriana. The girl flinched and turned around. How did you find me? Betty gave me the address. Guilty. Max looked at her, but please don't scold her. I talked her into it for a very, very long time. I promised her it would only be a one-time thing. And if you don't want to go out with me, I'll leave and I won't bother you anymore. Adriana shifted from foot to foot. She was embarrassed by the whole situation and her appearance. She, on the other hand, popped out to the bakery. What was she wearing? Home shorts. Old lady in a t-shirt and slippers. Why don't we sit somewhere? Max suggested, realizing it wasn't a good idea to have a relationship in the middle of the yard. The grandmothers sitting on the bench at the entrance started to look at them curiously, so the guy confidently took the girl by the hand and led her to the car. Adriana did not resist. So much was stunned by his unexpected appearance. I actually need to buy bread, said Adriana, when the guy sat her in the passenger seat and buckled her seatbelt. So we'll go to a place that sells bread. Max fiddled with the navigator and drove the girl to the nearest bakery. There he sat her at the farthest table and went to the counter. 5 minutes later, he returned with a tray with a plate of cakes and 2 cups of coffee. The guy sat down opposite Adriana, who was still frantically clutching the bag and purse. I'll try the brownie. I took the cherry one on purpose. The guy sat down opposite and moved the plate to the girl. He himself took a coffee and took a big sip. There was an awkward silence between the young people. Finally, Max pulled himself together. I still can't understand why you left me, he began. We just don't fit together, Adriana replied. Looking down at her lap, I suddenly realized that we are from different worlds. We have different lifestyles. My family is quite simple. I don't think it matters. If we love each other, Max said, I won't treat you worse just because your family isn't as well off. I'm willing to do whatever you want to do to save our relationship. Please give me a chance. He did, and made her hands his. Adriana raised her head and looked straight into the guy's pleading eyes. The girl felt her heart beat harder. She realized that she still loved Max, but her mistake had come between them. He shouldn't be sitting here making promises to her at all. She should be the one apologizing. There's something I have to tell you. After this, you will hardly want to be together with me. The girl looked down again. Don't you dare look at Max. I don't think there's anything in this world that can make me break up with you. The girl's heart rolled with unbearable excitement like crazy. Anyway, I'm pregnant. Adriana was afraid to look at Max, so she sat hiding her face in her palms. Are you seeing someone else? Or is it your ex-boyfriend's baby? No, it's an accident. I don't even know. The girl felt her face begin to burn with shame. I don't know who the father is. It just happened. You don't. Adriana didn't let him finish. No, it was all voluntary, but it was after the party. I was drunk. The girl didn't feel like she was lying. And it was true. She just wouldn't give Max all the details. So shameful they were me. I don't even know what to say right now. The girl found the strength to raise her head and look at Max. She expected to see disgust, but there was a look of sympathy on his face. But even that was unbearable. So Adriana turned away and looked out the window. See, now you definitely don't want anything to do with a girl like me. Max remained silent, looking at Adriana. He was trying to gather his thoughts. He hadn't expected this. Adriana. Look, he began cautiously. I won't judge you, and my feelings for you won't be affected. The girl looked at him. She didn't notice the tears running down her cheeks. You're going through a very difficult time right now, and I want to help you, Max continued. I will be there for you if you want to keep this baby. I can say that I am his father. Adriana looked at him in surprise, not knowing how to react to the guy's words. Why would you want to do that? I can't force you to take that kind of responsibility. It would be unfair and wrong. Adriana, you're not forcing me. I chose to help you and be there for you. Maybe things haven't turned out the way I imagined, but that doesn't mean we can't be happy together. I just can't imagine my life without you. He took her hand and kissed the palm. The girl burst into tears, feeling a mixture of happiness and relief. Max sat down beside her and hugged Adriana tightly so that she could cry. When the girl calmed down, the guy pulled away and looked at her very seriously. Marry me. That you don't want the baby to be born, do you? So if we tell everyone that it's my baby, no one will even have questions. Why did we suddenly decide to get married? Adriana looked Max in the eye. Are you really ready to do this? She asked, feeling her heart start to beat harder. Max nodded without looking away. I can't change the way things used to be, Adriana, but I can be there for you and the baby. Let's try it together. I promise I'll love and care for you both. Okay, let's try. She agreed and smiled weakly. Max enclosed her in a tight hug again. I'm so glad we can be together again. They bought not only bread but also a small cake. Max insisted on meeting Adriana's parents today. The girl, to be honest, was frightened by this speed of events. Your parents know about the child only, Mom. We were afraid to tell Dad right away. And well, if anything, I'll take all the fire on myself, soothed her Max. Let's hurry up. I went to the bakery. I didn't even pick up my cell phone and disappeared. My mom must be freaking out by now. Having gone up to the second floor, the young people did not dare to call for a long time and stopped in front of the door. It was the first experience for both of them. Max had never had to meet his girlfriend's parents before, and Adriana had never met anyone before. And given her delicate situation, you said Mom's worried, but I'm still kind of scared. Let me make the call. The guy gathered his courage and pressed the button of the faithful bell. A muffled trill sounded from the depths of the apartment. The door swung open almost immediately. A worried mother opened it. Adriana, where are you? The woman did not finish and froze when she saw an unfamiliar young man next to her daughter. I'd like you to meet him. This is Max, my boyfriend. Max, this is my mom, Kathy. Nice to meet you. The guy held out a box of cake. Why are we talking across the threshold? Come on in. The woman stepped back. Max's father came out of the living room when he heard a noise in the hallway. This is my dad, William. Dad, this is my boyfriend. We're dating. We've never heard of any boyfriends before. My dad arched his eyebrows at me. Adriana and I just had a little disagreement, and now it's resolved. Max took the girl's hand. I came here today to make up with her. And so we decided that we should meet you. My father let Max come through. You can stay for dinner, but you'll have to spend the night somewhere else. What are you talking about? His wife snapped at him. The man came from out of town. Are you going to throw him out on the street so we can't find a place to put him? Don't worry, Kathy. I'm staying at a hotel. That's where I'm staying, the young man reassured her. Well, here's a waste of more. When Max went to the bathroom to wash his hands, his mother took Adriana into the room and interrogated her. This is the one. Yes, awkwardly, Adriana replied. You said there would be a baby across the hall, but that's what I thought. And it turns out he agrees and even wants to raise it together. What a joy. The mother splashed her hands. You're imagining things again, as they usually say about such people, and all you had to do was talk to your young man. Everything is solved. All that's left is to tell your father. Tell your father. Tell him. That's the hardest part. Adriana sighed. When the women left the room, Max and father were already seated at the table. Mother immediately began to stir. I'm sorry it's so crowded. If I had known we were having guests tonight, I would have set the table in the big room. Don't worry. It's inconvenient for me to come without warning, but I have to go back tomorrow. I've got a work emergency. For dinner, the family had sautéed chicken and pies with apples. The biggest portions were, of course, Max's. Mother tried to please her possible son-in-law. Father looked at it and grumbled not indignantly, shouted at him by his wife. Max was on the road. Tired, probably hasn't eaten much. The father quickly pulled out a bottle of cognac to drink to the acquaintance, but the guy had to refuse. Sorry, I'm driving. After tea and cake, the young people looked at each other and decided to move on to the most difficult part of today's meeting with parents. Do we have a little news for you? Max began gently. We are planning to get married. That's a lot of news. It's a sign. Before you know it, you're already planning a wedding. The father was clearly displeased. Adriana exchanged concerned glances with her mother. Why not? The woman said. If the children love each other, then love and advice to them, and you're on their side. The man looked at his wife. What's wrong with that? Nowadays, all independent people without parents decide such things. It's a fact. Let Adriana study first, and then get married. What's the hurry? Father William suggested it. We'd be happy to wait. But there is one thing. Max took his girlfriend's hand. Adriana's in a state. In what position? Excuse me. The father first. I'm pregnant. Dad, explained the girl and blushed, lowered her head. We want to keep the baby so that it will be born in a complete family. That's the thing, said the father, and again reached for the locker where he had stashed the cognac. Now he was definitely going to drink a shot, or even two. While the man was digesting the news with the help of cognac, the young people discussed their plans with their mother. Don't worry about expenses. I'll take care of everything, Max said as he said goodbye to Adriana and her family, closing the door behind his future son-in-law. The mother looked at her daughter. Lucky you, Adriana, and kind, caring, and well off. I can't even believe how well everything is working out. A prince on a white horse, really on a white horse. The girl laughed. His car is white. The next weekend, Max came to pick up the girl to take her to meet her father. Don't worry, he will like you, he reassured Adriana. As they drove to the upscale club village, Adriana was stunned already at the entrance of the mansion. The plot was surrounded by a high stone wall, and on the sides of the gate stood marble left Lexus. I passed a small fountain and smoothly drove into the parking lot, where a couple of expensive cars were already parked. Max helped the girl out and led her to the house along the path along which stood statues and rose bushes. Adriana could not believe her eyes. After all, she grew up in a small town and had never seen such a luxurious large house and garden. But what did you like? Max asked, noticing the look on Adriana's face. "It's very beautiful here," she exclaimed. "There is also a cool greenhouse behind the house. I'll show them to you after I meet my father." The young people entered the mansion. The inside was even more impressive. High ceilings, snow-white walls, moldings, carpets on the floor, and furniture that looked like it had just been delivered from a museum. Vases with bouquets of fresh flowers stood everywhere. On the walls, contrasted with the classical furnishings, there were abstract paintings hanging. Max led the girl into the living room. Adriana sat down uncertainly on the very edge of the antique sofa. "Wait, I'll go into the kitchen. I'll ask for tea and some snacks. And I'll go get my dad. You don't have to follow me. I'm already here on the wide marble staircase carpeted in dark red. A man in a lively summer suit has appeared. Dad, you're just in time. I want you to meet Adriana. She and I are dating." The girl looked up the stairs, and her breath caught. She saw her client, the same man she had attended a charity auction with and spent the night in a hotel. "Adriana, this is Michael, my father." The man came down, looked at the girl, but didn't seem to know her. "Good evening, Adriana." He greeted her with a friendly smile. "I didn't know my son had such a nice girlfriend." Michael sat down in the chair. "He only recently told me about your existence." "Dad, I thought you were going to the kitchen. Why don't you go ahead? We're going to have a little chat with Adriana." Max gave his father an expressive look. "Don't worry, I won't eat her." As soon as the boy left the living room, Michael's friendly mask disappeared from his face, and his expression changed to a cold one. The man leaned back in his chair and gave the girls a scornful look. "I never thought my son would be picked up by a Courtney. I hope you didn't meet him as a client." "No, we met by chance at a trade show. In fact, it was my first time here. I just really needed the money. And then I realized it wasn't the right way for me to make money. So I deleted the profile." Adriana nervously rubbed the hem of her blouse. "Don't play games. Here in front of me, holy simplicity. Just tell me how much. How much of what?" The girl didn't get it. "How much money do I need to get you off my son's back? You don't have to tell me about love and stuff. Even if you do have love, it's just a matter of price. I'm not dating Max for the money." Adriana was outraged by Michael's proposal. "When I met him, I didn't even know he was rich. But later you found out." The man grinned. "Stop padding the price. Just name the amount and we'll call it a day. We'll sit, we'll talk. Max will drive you back home. And then you'll call him and tell him you're breaking up." And then Max came back. Behind him, the server's maid entered the living room with a cart. The woman began arranging the tea service and plates of appetizers on the coffee table. Max noticed the tense expression on Lena's face. He sat down next to her and put his arm around her. "So I have something to tell you," the guy said. "Adriana and I have decided to get married." Michael froze with a cup of tea in his hands. "That we love each other and want to live together, to live together. No need to have a wedding at all." You could hear the displeasure in the older man's voice. "How long have you two known each other?" "A few months. That's not long enough to make such an important decision. I'm willing to agree to your living together, but marriage." Michael looked intently at Adriana. "No, Dad, we're getting married. We have special circumstances." Max pulled the girl even tighter against him. "Adriana is expecting a child." At these words, the girl's hand involuntarily rested on her stomach. Pregnant. This news came as an unpleasant surprise to Max's father. "Yeah. Are you sure you're the father of this baby?" "You're the guy who looked at Michael perplexed. Why would I even question that? Adriana and I are dating, and if I don't give my license for this marriage..." The man put the cup on the chair and leaned back in his chair, looking at his son sternly. "Then we will still get married, but without your consent. We are adults who can make our own decisions. These decisions are unreasonable. Come to your senses. You picked up some girl on the street, and in a few months you're ready to marry her. I don't know what she's been sharking you with, but please, think again. There are decent girls from good families. It's Adriana I love. I could disinherit you." Michael threatened me. Have you forgotten that I don't depend on your money? Yes, my income can't provide the same standard of living, but I won't be poor. I am really ready to do anything for the sake of this girl, our future child, replied Max, looking straight into his father's eyes. There was an awkward silence in the living room. Michael looked at his son, as if not understanding how things could have turned out this way. Adriana sat next to Max, frantically squeezing his hand. All right, Michael said, rising from his chair and casting a heavy, grim look in the girl's direction. But you must know that you can no longer count on my help and support from now on. You claim to be an independent adult, so solve all your problems on your own. The man left. Max turned to Adriana. I'm sorry you had to endure all that. I didn't think my father would be so set in his ways. It's my fault. That you and him had a fight. It wasn't your fault. The guy hugged her. After a while, he'll cool down, he'll settle down, and then he'll take your kid. He's got nowhere else to go but me. He has no other children. Max pulled away and looked at the girl. He gently wiped away the tears in the corners of her eyes. Don't worry about anything. Get ready for the wedding and the birth of the baby, and I'll take care of everything else. He kissed the girl's forehead. It seemed to Adriana that Betty was looking forward to the wedding more than she was. Her friend was in a flurry of activity, buying wedding magazines, calling a dozen florins all day long, looking through wedding photographers' portfolios like obsessors. Adriana suspected that half of the girl's pleasure came from the opportunity to spend other people's money in unlimited quantities. Today, she dragged Adriana into the bridal salon. Given your situation, we'll need a dress with a high waist. Young lady, would you show me what you have? Sure. The sales consultant returned 5 minutes later with several dresses and placed them on the counter. Let's start with these. If they don't fit, I'll find more options. Betty meticulously examined the offered dresses and took off one of them, white with a long airy skirt, decorated with rhinestones with a not deep semicircular cut. I know you're a smart girl. So what would be the perfect thing for you to try on? It's probably cheaper too. Adriana took the dress and hid behind the curtains, and the example is accurate. Betty rolled her eyes habitually. Stop counting money. You have a rich boyfriend who's willing to pay for your every whim. You need to stop saving money. No one will even notice your efforts. I'd be scared to wear it myself. I might get it dirty. How do I return it? So you're gonna rent it too. Betty's got her eyes on Adriana. Why would I buy it? It's a one-time thing. Her friend collapsed on the couch. I wonder if there's any training on how to fix the beggar mindset. You know, Betty. Adriana peeked out from behind the curtain. I'm used to the way you talk, but sometimes it sounds really hurtful. I'm sorry. The girl was embarrassed. Adriana stepped out of the examples to spin around in front of her friend. But as Betty appraised her from head to toe, something was wrong. Let's do the next one. Try this one. Light champagne, suggested the consultant, showing the girls a dress. Weave flat skirt, fawn, decorated with small flowers. Oh, there are open shoulders. I don't really like that. Then this one in empire style is very simple. But look at the embroidery on the fabric. The girl spent almost an hour trying it on. Adriana would have picked the dress herself much faster, but Betty made her try them on one by one until she was completely satisfied with her friend's look. But this one, there's no shame in marrying you. I'm glad you like it. You don't like the dress you've chosen. Then you should have told me right away. Betty was embarrassed. It sounds like I made you buy it. No, I do. It's beautiful, but I don't know. I feel like I'm not ready for all this. And Max had a fight with his dad because of me. That's what the girl said. This is not how I pictured my wedding, and I didn't want my married life to start with deceit. Betty stopped and took Leanie in her arms. It's normal. Every bride experiences nervousness and doubt before her wedding. After all, your life is about to change dramatically. But you and Max love each other. That's not a lie. He's even willing to accept your child from another man. Where else are you gonna find the perfect guy? It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Adriana hugged Betty on impulse. Thank you for being here. What would I do without you? Cried the girl. Probably would have gotten into less trouble. Betty joked. Adriana smiled through her tears. You need to cheer up. There's a popular pastry shop nearby. The prices are outrageous. But you and I have a credit on your boyfriend tonight, so we can go all out. Betty took Adriana's hand and led her down the street. On the eve of the wedding, Adriana received a phone call from an unfamiliar number. She answered and warily asked who it was. Michael, let's talk. I'm coming to Cake Alex's restaurant in an hour. I'll send you the address. The man did not even wait for an answer. He immediately disconnected. Adriana hesitated at first, but then realized that between Michael, there is an unresolved issue, with which sooner or later something will have to be done. The girl put on her dress and coat and took her purse. She arrived for her meeting with Michael a little late at the entrance to the grounds. Adriana was met by the receptionist who escorted her to a booth. The girl was wary of Max's father, but hoped he wouldn't do anything in a public place that could hurt her and her child. But what didn't change your mind? Asked Michael, when Adriana sat down at the table. About what? About the offer to take the money and disappear from my son's life. Although I realize the stakes are higher now. There's a baby on the way. Except I'm not sure Max is the father. Aren't you afraid? I mean, it's very easy to verify. I don't think you'll want to check the parentage of this child and Max, Adriana said, pressing her lips together. Outwardly, the girl looked confident, but only she knew what labor was costing her. That apparent calmness. Why was that? Because the child really isn't Max's. Ha! The man grinned. Just as I thought. The child is yours. Michael looked at her angrily. You've got my son wrapped around your finger. And now she's targeting me. But I'm not a simple man. Why don't you believe me? Why would I lie? You said yourself that paternity is easily verified. To hide the excitement, Adriana took a glass of water and made a few gladki. Do you remember how we met you? Or have we already forgotten everything, including the night at the hotel? Well, okay, let's say it's my child. But why would you lie to my son? I can't. Max knows perfectly well it's someone else's child. He agreed to recognize it and raise it as his own. I really appreciate his desire to be a father to my baby. I think he'll change his mind when he finds out you've been working as an escort. Michael grinned. I wonder what he'll say when he finds out his fiancé's baby is his father's. Adriana and Michael looked at each other in the air. The restaurant booth seemed torn with tension. You wouldn't dare. Then your relationship will be ruined, Michael said. I guess at that point I wouldn't care anymore. I had already broken up with Max and wanted to raise this child on my own. But he convinced me to come back. But his relationship with you could be totally screwed up. The girl has become. I don't think we have anything else to talk about. If we both keep quiet, Max and I will have a happy family. And you have the opportunity to communicate with your son, albeit under the guise of a grandson. Adriana picked up her purse and walked out the door of the restaurant. Her confidence had left her. She barely made it to the nearest bench. Young lady, you're not well. You look so pale. Should I call an ambulance? Concerned, a passing woman asked her. No, thank you. I'm fine. I'll just sit here and I'll feel better. The phone rang in her purse. It was Max. Yeah, honey. I went for a walk. The weather's so nice today. Where? I'll send you the address right away. Okay, I'll be waiting. Adriana stroked and visibly rounded her belly. We'll be fine. Baby, we're definitely gonna be okay now.
Why are you getting so hot and bothered so early? Your Ethan won't get away from you. Aren't you afraid he'll turn to her? He'll find out sooner or later. Do you think Kathy will stay with you? I doubt it. We'd both be fools. What am I supposed to do then? Drown myself? Why should I live without him? Wait, drown yourself. Daniel thought for a moment. There must be a way out. There is. Olivia lowered her voice to a whisper, looking around. And you'll go all the way out? What do you want in return? Olivia wiped away her tears. Nothing. If this case works out, we both win. I get rid of the problem, Kathy stays with me, and we can raise our children happily. And you get what you want, and you get to keep your marriage. Also make sure I never see you again or hear from you or your husband. You don't have to worry about that. Just how do I get it all to happen without being seen? I'm sure we can do it. The woman has regained her spirits. What am I supposed to do there? A class reunion. Kathy pondered, trying on one dress after another in front of the mirror. It's been 5 years since we last saw each other. They'll start reminiscing again, telling stories from their school life for the 105th time and laughing at them. Why? This is probably the best one. She decided on a strict dark blue dress made of a thin, shiny fabric. The woman pulled a matching scarf from her dresser drawer and deftly tied it around her neck. She added earrings, a ring, shoes, a purse on a thin leather strap, and spun around in front of the mirror, assessing her reflection. Then she sat down abruptly on the edge of the bed and moaned. I'm afraid to go there. I don't want to meet Ethan, and he'll be there. Lisa had warned me. Why rake up the past? And what's in the past? A youthful crush. But it's been years. Right. She jumped to her feet, tossing back the unruly locks of dark hair. I'm calm. I'm going to meet my classmates. All feelings are in the past. I just want to see the guys. Oh my God! She covered her face with her hands. Who am I trying to fool? The young woman flinched when she heard the phone ring. Kathy? The cheerful voice of a friend sounded. Kathy wrinkled her nose. Where are you? Everyone's packed. Get a cab. Come right away. Kathy didn't have time to answer as the phone buzzed, and she sighed, dialing the number of the cab. From the open windows of the cafe, music was pouring out. Former classmates were standing on the porch, smoking, talking, laughing. What are you celebrating? The driver asked, glancing at her in the rearview mirror. He smoothly stopped the car at the very entrance to the cafe. Homecoming. Kathy sighed. Have a good time. The driver smiled and stepped on the gas. Kathy paused for a second, gathering her strength, and walked towards her classmates. She was very worried. Her heart was racing. What had he become? She thought of Ethan. How will he meet me? She was scared and frantic to see him. The cafe was stuffy. Lisa rushed over and dragged her to the tables. I've been saving a seat for you. Sit down and have a drink. Kathy warmly greeted her classmates, exchanged a few duty phrases, but her gaze involuntarily slid around the hall in search of the one who made her poor heart flutter. He's not here yet, joyfully informed her friend. Who? Kathy asked, blushing. Ethan. You're looking for him, aren't you? I'm not looking for anyone. I'm not looking for anyone. I'm not interested in him at all. At these words, Lisa laughed and shook her head. It's stuffy in here. Shall we go and get some air? She headed for the exit, followed by the others. They stood on the porch of the cafe, exchanging meaningless phrases. Oh, girls! One of them was surprised. Who is it that drove up in such an expensive car? I don't believe it. Kathy turned her head and saw a big black Jeep, which dashingly drove up and stood in the parking lot. Holy cow! The other girl noticed. It's Ethan himself. The girls were talking animatedly, and Kathy's heart raced when she saw a tall, broad-shouldered, handsome brunette in a light business suit and model shoes, smiling and spreading his arms wide, walking toward them. "A man can't be so handsome." Someone laughed. "A rich groom. Do you know if he is married?" Asked the first beauty of their class. "When has having a wife ever stopped you?" The girls laughed. "I don't know anything about him at all. He may be a father of many children." "The first dance with me. Please do not borrow." As they exchanged jokes, the girls ran off the porch and into Ethan's arms. "Hello, Kathy." Ethan smiled broadly at the girl. He hugged her and kissed her cheek. "Hello, Ethan." The girl trembled at his touch. Goosebumps ran down her body, and she blushed, embarrassed by his proximity. "Why are you so excited?" She scolded herself. It was just a kiss between former classmates and nothing more. But she realized that nothing had been forgotten. She was still attracted to him. "Girls," Ethan proclaimed cheerfully, looking around at everyone. "You're so beautiful, come on. I want to drink to you." The girls, laughing, followed the young man into the hall, each wanting to be closer to him. "Well, what are you doing like you're not alive?" Looked back at Kathy, friend. "Catch up. I'm coming. The girl sighed and went into the hall. The evening was a great success. The young people were having a lot of fun. Kathy's heart sank when her gaze happened to meet Ethan's. He talked to everyone evenly, not singling out anyone for attention. "What are you, like a taut string?" Her friend interrupted her. "Distracted, relax, drink champagne, smile. Everything is great. Let's go dancing. Stop sitting around the table." Lisa dragged Kathy into the circle as light music began to play. Kathy made an effort to put on a smile, and Ethan was right there. "Kathy, I don't recognize you." He shouted in her ear, the loud music making it hard to talk. "You're even more beautiful now. I've been thinking about you." He pressed his lips to her cheek for a moment. Kathy was silent, her heart ready to jump out of her chest at the light touch, the skin on her cheek burning. She felt a silly smile spread across her face against her will, but she couldn't help it. She wanted to be with him like this all night, dancing in the darkened room. A slow tune began to play. "Would you like to dance with me?" Taking her hand, Ethan asked. "No," Kathy breathed out, her legs shaking as she felt his hands on her waist. She felt his hands on her waist and winced when he leaned over and kissed her cheek or temple, or pressed her against him, or leaned away from her and stared at her in admiration. The girl didn't notice how jealously her classmates were watching them. "Ethan still has a crush on you." Playfully, Lisa remarked as Kathy returned to her table. "Don't make that up." The girl blushed. "It's just a dance." "Friends," announced the host of the party, "our evening has come to an end. I say goodbye to you and wish to meet in the same composition in the next 5 years. School years have passed imperceptibly, leaving an eternal trace in your memory. And no matter how much time passes, I hope you will remember each other. Goodbye." The guests slowly began to disperse. Someone, having said goodbye, left alone. Someone had already found a company to continue the evening elsewhere. Kathy shuddered as she heard Ethan's voice behind her. "Can I walk you out?" "Why?" She was surprised. "I don't live far away, and how would you do it?" "You can't drive when you're drunk." "We'll walk. The car is parked at the cafe until morning. Nothing will happen to it. Shall we go to the embankment?" "I don't want to part with you." "Don't say no." He took her hand, pressed it to his chest. "When else can we be alone like this?" "All right." Kathy gave in. Her sixth sense was chiming in, warning her not to accept the invitation, but she didn't heed it. A long-standing crush drowned out all reason. Why do you need a backpack? Ethan pulled the backpack out of the car and slung it over one shoulder. I think we could use it. Smiling enigmatically, Ethan said. They walked slowly down the embankment. Even silent next to Ethan, Kathy felt good. Let's go down to the river, shall we? The young man suggested when they came to a staircase that led down to a narrow strip of beach. Remember when we could sit here until morning and make out? He gave her a hand, helping her down. There under the bridge was their hiding place, protected by the concrete slabs of the boardwalk and the base of the stairs. We were teenagers, chilly. Kathy shivered in the fresh river wind. I'll warm you up. I've got this. Ethan solemnly pulled out of his backpack a blanket, a bottle of champagne, 2 glasses, and a box of chocolates. Remember when we used to sit here like this after the last exam at school and drink champagne? So much water has passed. Thoughtfully answered the girl, sitting down on the carefully confused plaid. I remember almost nothing. Why are you deceiving yourself? The young man deftly opened the bottle, poured the drink, and handed 1 glass to the girl. I see that you remember everything perfectly and have not forgotten how we loved each other. Don't flatter yourself. She took a sip of champagne. Then we were children. Today we are different. I couldn't have been wrong. Ethan said heartfelt, taking the glass from her. Look at me. He turned her toward him. The same look, the same feelings. He kissed her lips lightly. I realized today that I missed you, our conversations in front of the moon. He kissed her again, making her lose the remnants of her mind. You said it right. We are different. You are a woman. I am a man. We are attracted to each other. Why can't we give you pleasure? Ethan put his arms around her, laid her down on the plaid, and began to cover her face with hot kisses. Kathy hardly remembered how she had found herself unclothed in front of him, embarrassed by the intense, greedy gaze. I want you. He looked at her questioningly, as if asking permission. Yes, with one lip, the girl answered. They made love, and in between they drank champagne. Heated, tired, they lay side by side, open to the night sky, warm June air, and admired the awakening of a new day. I'm ready to spend my whole life with this man. Kathy dreamed, snuggled against Ethan's warm side. We'll have a big house and 3 wonderful children. He's so handsome. The girl rolled over onto her stomach and looked at the man affectionately. I love you. I still love you. You are the only man in my life. I am grateful to you for that. I didn't expect it, honestly. I thought you got married a long time ago. I've been faithful to you. I didn't meet someone who could help me forget about us, but things will be different now. That class reunion turned my life upside down. I realized I didn't need anyone else. I wish I could take it back, but I won't let you go anywhere else. You're mine. She pressed passionately against the man's naked body. Listen, Kathy. Releasing himself from her embrace, Ethan sat up. There's something I need to tell you. Tell me. The girl closed her eyes dreamily. I'm ready to listen to your voice from morning till night. Forgive me. I realize I've treated you like an asshole, but I'm married, and I'm about to have a child. A satisfied smile slowly slid off the girl's face. She didn't immediately realize what he had said. Married how? Well, married. I've been happily married for 5 years. I respect you very much and am grateful for tonight, but there will be no affair between us. Then why are you here? It's my fault, I admit it. Everything that happened between us is a mistake. I couldn't resist the temptation, the wine, the night, the beautiful woman, the memories of my youth. Anyone would, but that's it. Walk me home, asked Kathy, hurriedly getting dressed. She was disgusted with herself. Did you take offense? Ethan stood up, starting to get dressed as well. We're adults. We had a good time. Admit it, you had a good time with me. But it was a mistake. Muffled, Kathy replied. Her heart was torn apart. In 1 minute, all her dreams had been shattered. She berated herself, cursed her gullibility, and wanted to get home so she could get under the shower, washed herself off his kisses, his touch. At home, standing under the hot water, she cried she had never felt so bad. Kathy went to bed and couldn't sleep for a long time. How could he have done that to her? Daughter? Kathy heard. Come to dinner. I've cooked some fish, just the way you like it. You should eat well. You've been so pale lately. Kathy went into the kitchen, inhaled the smell of fried fish with pleasure, and suddenly clamped her hands over her mouth, only just managed to run to the toilet before she threw up. Then she stood in the bathroom for a long time, leaning over the sink, trying to cope with the spasms that came to her throat. Her hands, her legs were shaking, and her already pale face was waxy. Kathy, are you pregnant? Looking suspiciously at her daughter, Wendy asked. Yes, Mom. Hiding her eyes, the young woman admitted. That's good. Rejoiced the mother. Have you told Daniel yet? What's Daniel got to do with it? Kathy asked tiredly. It's not his baby. How could it be? Wendy stared at her in bewilderment. Who is it from? Really? It suddenly hit her. Did Ethan knock you up? You shameless girl. Did it all work out at your high school reunion? You cheated on a guy like that. Are you going to chase after Ethan like a dog again? Didn't he get on your nerves enough in high school? Even so, I love him and I don't want your Daniel. And he's ready to marry you. No, he's married. His wife's expecting a baby. I won't break up a family. I don't have the right to do that. And you keep quiet. Does he have the right to break up your life? Who'd want you with a baby? Have you thought about it? What will people say? You're stupid. You're in your 3rd decade, and you're still smart. Calm down, Mom. Kathy wrinkled her nose. I'll pick up the baby myself. Kathy. Wendy sat down beside her daughter and took her hand in her own. And you marry Daniel. Say it's his baby. It's not due yet. No one will know but us. Don't make it up. The woman snatched her hand out of her mother's grasp. I'm not going to start my family life with deceit. Daniel is not a fool. He will suspect a lie, because we have not been intimate. No. Mother spoke with determination. I won't leave it like this. He must answer for everything. Mom, don't you try to calm down. Your mom, unfortunately, cannot help. The blood clot has broken off, and this is instant death. We got there, but it was too late. Is that how it happens? In despair, looking at the nurse, asked Kathy, swallowing tears. She'd just been talking, laughing. It happens. I can call someone to come and support you. You shouldn't be alone right now. Yeah, I'll make the call. With unresponsive fingers, she dialed Daniel's number. He arrived almost immediately. What happened? The man stepped aside to let the strangers who were carrying Wendy's body out of the driveway. Yes, the woman was dead. One of them answered, Daniel. Kathy rushed towards him. Mommy's gone. She snuggled into his shoulder and sobbed. Will you stay with her? Asked the doctor. Yes, Daniel answered, hugging the inconsolable Kathy. We gave her a sedative. She should sleep and come back tomorrow to do the paperwork. Later, Kathy could hardly recall the events of the following days. Daniel had taken care of all the troubles. He supported the young woman, was always by her side, organized the funeral and the wake. Kathy did not understand what was happening. She felt in a kind of prostration. On the day of the funeral, when everything was over, the young people were left alone in an empty apartment. "Daniel, thank you." The woman looked at him gratefully. "If it hadn't been for you, I don't know how I would have coped. It all came at once. Do you want me to stay with you?" "Yeah, I can't be here alone. I know I have to get used to it, but I can't yet. It's so empty without my mom." Tears came to her eyes, and she looked at the picture of Windus with the black stripe on the frame, but Daniel pulled her to him, hugged her. "Don't cry. I'm with you. I'm here for you." They stayed like that all night, hugging each other, falling asleep and unnoticed. "Let's go for a walk?" Daniel suggested at breakfast. "You need a little distraction." "I don't want to." Picking at her plate with her fork, Kathy replied, "I don't want to see anyone right now." The man looked at her affectionately. "That's what happens when people leave. We're all guests on this earth. We all have to go sometime. Wendy's gone, but we're still alive. Who's going to feel better if you sit alone all day? Do you want to get sick? Mom wouldn't praise you for that. Come on, pull yourself together. You don't understand." Kathy said in despair. "We'd had a fight with her. I yelled at her, and then she got sick. It's my fault she's dead. Our quarrel triggered the seizure." "Don't talk nonsense." Daniel frowned. "You read the report? The clot broke off. It could have broken off earlier, it could have broken off later, but it would have happened anyway. There's no way to control it. What's the point of blaming yourself for something that's not your fault? You're so good." Kathy looked at him gratefully. Daniel had surrounded Kathy with such care and attention that she felt involuntarily attracted to him. "Kathy." One evening the man confessed, "Do you know how much I love you? My love is enough for the two of us. You're alone and I'm alone, marry me." "Daniel, I'm very good to you." The woman raised her eyes to him. "And of course I'm ready to marry you, but before I do, I want to confess something." She was silent for a moment, gathering the strength to make her confession. The man looked at her with a smile. "Daniel, I'm pregnant." "What?" He tensed. Kathy could see his cheekbones set. "Who's the lucky guy?" "That's Ethan, my classmate. I could hide the pregnancy from you, but that wouldn't be fair. You've done so much for me these past few days, I just can't keep quiet. If you leave, I'll understand. I love you too much." After a long silence, Daniel spoke. "That's why I'll take your child as my own. I'll never reproach you with a word or a look, I swear. I just want to be with you always, but I have a favor to ask. Don't ever tell anyone it's not my baby. Promise?" "I promise." "Daniel, I don't know how I deserve this kind of love. Thank you for being there for me. I couldn't have done it without your support. So much has happened, so many changes in my life. I've lost my way. I really need you." Kathy said, and she believed her words to be true. "So you'll marry me?" "I think we're in too much of a hurry. Mama's just been buried. What kind of wedding can we have? We'll get married in a year." Daniel said sensibly, "In the meantime, we can have a quiet marriage. You don't want the baby to be born fatherless, do you?" The last argument finally dispelled Kathy's doubts, and she agreed. A couple months later, they were husband and wife. The woman's pregnancy had been difficult, and she hadn't left the hospital in months. During the night, Kathy woke up to a sudden twisting in her stomach. The sharp pain made her cry out. "What happened?" Daniel asked sleepily, waking up immediately. He turned on the light and saw his wife's pale face contorted with pain. "Has it started?" "Yes." Barely catching her breath, Kathy replied. "Hang on, I'll call an ambulance. And you breathe, breathe. He quickly dialed a phone number and called the medical team. "Can I help you get dressed?" "I don't feel well," the woman complained. "Don't be afraid, my dear. Everything is under control. We'll take you to the hospital and the doctors will help you there." Daniel quickly dressed himself, collected his wife, and put out the bag he had already prepared for the hospital. When he heard the doorbell ring, he rushed to open it. "Where is the woman in labor?" Entering, the doctor asked businesslike, "Something you pale. Can you walk?" "I'll try." Daniel helped his wife up. "Ouch!" Kathy cried out, writhing in pain and clutching her stomach. "Stretcher!" shouted the doctor. A stretcher appeared, and the woman was laid down and carried into the car. "Doctor?" asked a worried Daniel. "Is she going to be all right?" "Don't worry, Daddy. She'll be fine." The car drove off, and Daniel went to the hospital after it. "Where's my wife?" he asked the girl nurse in the emergency room. They took her to the delivery room. "You're going home. There's nothing you can do for her now." "No, I'm staying." The man sat down in a vacant chair. He couldn't find a place to sit. He stood up, paced the hallway, trying to pull himself together. "Are you Kathy's husband?" The doctor came out of the door. "Yes," rushed over to him, a worried man. "Your wife's unconscious right now, and the labor's severe. You must authorize a C-section. Unfortunately, she can't. I don't want to live without my boy. Where is he? I want to see him." She sat up abruptly in bed and looked at her husband with distraught eyes. "Let me hold him in my arms." "Calm down." Daniel looked at her anxiously. "You're not yourself right now. I buried our child." "You don't understand." The woman clutched at his arm. "I want to see him. Let's go to the cemetery and open the grave. I'll only look at him with one eye. I want to memorize his face at least. Please, please." Tears were streaming from her eyes. Her lips trembled. She was shivering. "Nurse." Daniel ran out into the hallway. My wife was hysterical. A nurse came running, followed by the doctor. Sobbing Kathy, they put her in bed, gave her an injection. She burst out, screaming, begging for the baby, her head throbbing on the pillow. After a while, the woman fell silent, sobbing pitifully, and then fell into a troubled sleep. "You go home," Daniel, the doctor, advised. "She'll sleep until morning. You'll have a hard time with her at first." "It's all right. I'll manage. It's a good thing she hasn't seen the baby. She'll forget sooner." But the doctor was wrong. Kathy didn't want to forget her baby. When she was discharged from the hospital 2 days later, the first thing she did was tell her husband to take her to the cemetery. There she fell on a small grave, wrapped her arms around it, and sobbed bitterly. "Olivia, I'm home." Ethan threw the suitcase at the threshold and went into the living room. "Where are you, darling?" "I'm back. I was so afraid I wouldn't make it back from my business trip in time for your delivery." "Here's our daddy back." Smiling Olivia came out of the room with the baby in her arms. The woman's eyes shone with happiness. "How? Already? Why didn't you tell me you were going to have a baby?" He frowned. "I would have come right away. I wanted to be there for the birth." "Sorry, our son didn't want to wait for you to come back. Won't you give me a kiss, darling? Don't you want to see our baby?" She handed the baby to his father. "How tiny he is," the man said, taking his son in his arms. He looked at the boy with fondness and tenderness, then kissed his wife. "Thank you, my love, but next time I'll never leave you alone before the birth." Ethan leaned over his son. He was so preoccupied with him that he didn't notice the shadow running across Olivia's face. "Why so sad, friend?" Lisa sat down across from Kathy at the cafe table. "What's wrong with you? Why are there tears in your eyes? Are you moping? I've been saying for ages, stop killing yourself over your firstborn for another. It's been a long time, and you still can't calm down. I wouldn't wait too long if I were you. Aren't you afraid your husband will leave you? He's such a good-looking man. He'll be hitched to some pretty girl before you know it. Did you go to the hospital? That's what I wanted to tell you. The doctors say I won't be able to have any more children. The woman said sadly, the labor was hard, then complications, and that's it. I can't get pregnant again. Is that the final verdict? Yes, I've had every cell examined, but the result is the same. I'm infertile. Why, Daniel? Does he know? No, I don't dare tell him. I'm afraid to imagine his reaction. Do you think he'll leave you? I don't know. I don't care. I don't think I love him. After I lost the baby, he and I became like strangers. I don't see him much. He's got his own business. He's at work all day. I'm alone. Why do you live with him if you don't love him? It's a real hard labor. If I were you, I'd have gotten a divorce or a lover long ago. Lisa winked at her friend. What are you talking about? Kathy waved her away. I couldn't even think of such a thing. I'm grateful to him for being there for me in my time of need. He's been there for me. He's been there for me. He's so good. He's easy and simple. He does everything for me. You can't get very far on gratitude. Are you really going to spend the rest of your life feeling indebted to him? Doesn't he know you don't love him? Aren't you afraid he'll find someone else to replace you? Look at what you've become like. You've completely neglected yourself, walking around like a shadow. Your husband's a businessman, and you're not groomed, wearing dark clothes. I can't remember the last time you smiled. I can't remember it myself. The woman sighed heavily. The house is empty, no one to talk to. I don't know where Daniel gets his angelic patience from. Isn't it time to shake things up a bit? Why don't you and I go out and buy you some clothes? You're a young, beautiful woman. Don't you want to look stunning? If my husband allowed me not to save money on myself, I would have already collected a collection of clothes from the most expensive fashion designers. I'm happy with what I'm wearing. I'm not really in the mood for clothes right now. I'm sorry. Kathy got up from the table. I should get going. Don't wait. Tell Daniel the truth. He doesn't deserve to be treated like this. That's exactly what I'm going to do now. Thank you. You're the best friend in the world. The woman smiled sadly. With a heavy heart, Kathy waited for her husband's return from work. She realized that it was impossible to postpone the conversation and dreaded it. Darling, I'm back. Daniel entered the living room with a small but very expensive bouquet of flowers. I thought I'd treat you a little. He answered his wife's puzzled look, holding out the flowers. Just like that, no reason. Come on, feed me. Daniel. The woman put the bouquet in a vase and began to set the table. I need to have a serious talk with you. Can we save the serious talk for after dinner? I'm really tired. Your talk, can it wait half an hour? Kathy watched her husband eat in silence. He said something, even laughed, but the woman, immersed in her own thoughts, did not listen to him. Kathy, was there something you wanted to talk about? Yes. Kathy woke up from her thoughts. I went to the doctor again today, and I got the final report. I'll never be able to have any more children. Is that definite yet? Daniel frowned. Yes, they didn't give me even 1% out of 100 that a miracle would happen, and I could get pregnant. I'm sorry. I'm a bad wife. Daniel got up, walked over to her, gave her a hug. You're the best, so we'll live together. There are many families like us and nothing. They live, even happy in their own way. But you dreamed of an heir. I dreamed of you. The main thing is to have you by my side. That's all I need. What are you doing up at the crack of dawn? Daniel asked, getting ready for work. I'm going to visit my mother and son. Kathy replied as she dressed. I haven't been there in 6 months, and the graves are overgrown with grass, so I need to clean them up. Why do you go there? How many times can you nurse a wound? Live in the present. Take care of the house. You wouldn't understand. Kathy replied, You haven't had him under your belly for 9 months. Do you think I'm callous? You think I've forgotten him? You're wrong. Maybe I suffer more than you, but I don't show it. What was it like for me, burying our little son? You're lucky you didn't even see him. You can't imagine how I felt at that moment. I'm sorry. Kathy burst into tears. Daniel put his arms around her and held her tightly against him, comforting her. I can't help it. I'm drawn to it like a magnet. Aren't you afraid you'll go crazy soon? What kind of person in their right mind behaves like that? I understand celebrating an anniversary, but not every month. You go there like you go to work. Why don't you do something useful or go out with your girlfriends? Why don't we make a reservation at a restaurant? We haven't been out in a while, or we could go to the countryside, you know? Sorry, I'm not in the mood. Should I lock you up? I can't stand to see you torturing yourself. Don't bother me, please. It's where I calm down. Kathy knew in her heart that her husband was right, but she was drawn to the last refuge of mother and son. She put on her household gloves, squatted by her mother's grave, and wiped the monument with a cloth. It's been a long time since I've been to your place. The woman mumbled as she began to clean up the grass. She concentrated on pulling weeds and tried not to think about anything. Well, it's good to be clean again. Now I'll go to my son, and you stay here. Hello, my darling. Kathy bent down to her son's grave. She threw the wilted flowers out of the vase and put fresh ones in. You would have been 5 years old today. She stroked the black granite monument, shivering from the cold. Mom remembers you. I'm sorry I didn't keep you safe. Sleep well. The woman stood silently by the small mound. From the outside she looked strange, all in black, thin, with a pale face, haggard with mental anguish. She looked much older than her years. The habit of speaking to the graves of mother and son in the cemetery, which had appeared in recent years, horrified Daniel. Time passed, and Kathy's mental health did not recover. Her life, like a metronome, monotonously, joylessly counted down the days. Her heart suffered from night dreams, which appeared to her if she did not come to her son for a long time. No, she could not even imagine the child's face, but from behind the vision was so clear that the woman woke up in tears, and in the morning went to the cemetery. Kathy, the woman heard one day, on her way out of the cemetery grounds. Hello, have you come to see your people? Clara, hello. She greeted the older woman, Ethan's mother, warmly. What brings you here? I buried my husband a year ago. I came to visit. I'm sorry, I didn't know Ethan's father had died. I'm sorry for your loss. Thank you. If it wasn't for my grandson, I don't know how I'd have gotten through all this. Olivia had a boy? Yeah, he's your age. You had a baby with her at the same time. Yes. I didn't know. Look what a nice little boy we have growing up. The woman took out of her purse a photo of a smiling 5-year-old boy and handed it to Kathy. He's beautiful. And he's so smart. Ethan wasn't like that at his age. Kathy almost fainted when she saw the picture. Her heart raced. There was something painfully familiar in the boy's features. Tears came to her eyes. No, she thought, my baby would probably look like him, for he is Ethan's son too. Oh, Kathy! Clara came to her senses. I'm sorry, you stupid fool. I was so happy I forgot you'd lost your baby. Don't kill me like that. You and your husband are still young. You'll have a baby. Baby, it's such a happiness." Kathy smiled sadly at the woman and hurried away. She knew that she would never have this happiness. "Olivia, where have you been again?" Ethan grudgingly watched as his wife, smiling stupidly and looking at him with eyes dazed from alcohol, took off her shoes in the hallway. "At the club, where else? Did you miss me, darling? Isn't it a little late for you to go clubbing? You're not a girl. Aren't you ashamed to insinuate my age? By the way, I'm still young. What's your problem anyway? I came home a little drunk, so what? I'm not a nursing mom. It's the middle of the night and you're out somewhere. The baby wouldn't go to bed without you. What's wrong? You can't put your own son to bed. Are you used to your wife always being home? And I wanted a party, I have the right. Couldn't you do without me for one night? You're a mother, didn't your heart pound? Didn't you worry about your son? And you're a father." Olivia parried. She came close to her husband and kissed him. He smelled the scent of expensive men's cologne and wine. The boy needs a father more than a mother. By the way, I didn't say that. I gave him to you. I raised him for 5 years. Now it's your turn. Why are you picking on me? She pouted her lips in resentment. Can't I have at least one night a year to relax the way I want to? I'm sick of diapers, cradles, baby tears. But that doesn't mean you have to come home at midnight. Well, I'm sorry. I wasn't looking at my watch. It was so much fun out there. The time flew by. Me and the girls had a lot of fun. You've changed a lot lately. What's going on? Nothing's going on, she shrugged. We were on vacation with some friends. Do you know how tired I am of sitting at home? The same thing every day. I want to change. I miss it so much. Okay, take your clothes off. I don't want my son to see you like this. At least let me know if you're going to be late. I'm worried. Okay, I'm going to bed. She waved her hand and disappeared into the bedroom. I don't think you love our son. Ethan reprimanded her as she lay in bed. You were doing something with the little one, but now you don't pay any attention to him, and he's bored. Don't make it up. In a sleepy voice, Olivia assured him. Just because I don't coddle him doesn't mean I don't love him. He needs a stern man's upbringing. I can see he's bothering you. What has he ever done to you? You never kiss him. You never caress him. You just yell at him, and he's so attracted to you. What's wrong with you? You were a great mom, weren't you? Leave me alone. The woman waved me away irritably. I'm tired. I want to sleep. How many times can you teach me? I know how to behave with my son. I don't need your advice. A week later, Ethan received a message that made him furious. Who's that? He shoved the phone under his wife's nose. Who's the guy in the picture next to you? Just a guy I know. She replied nonchalantly. Why are you freaking out? Why are you freaking out? I find out that my wife is cheating on me, and you pretend that nothing happened. What do you think? A light flirtation. No binding relationship. I thought I'd diversify our relationship a little bit. Are you crazy? What's wrong with you? I go out of my way to provide for you and Hunter, and you're in bed with another man. Aren't you ashamed in front of your son? What's wrong with me? You're one to talk. Olivia snorted contemptuously. Have you forgotten how you slept with your Kathy? I was pregnant then. Forget? I'll remind you. What, you don't like it? Feel how much it hurt. Did you think I wouldn't find out? You. Ethan turned pale. From where? Some kind people found her. Her mother called me and told me that you got Kathy pregnant too. And now you're claiming me. Fuck you. She's locked herself in the bedroom. Olivia, it was one time. On homecoming day. I was drunk. I don't remember how it happened. I've forgotten all about it. But I remember everything, shouted the woman. I'll never forget. You cheated on me. You didn't even have the courage to admit it. Confess to nothing. Ethan said in despair. That night meant nothing to me. You mean you had no feelings for her? Are you an animal? Just looking for someone to sleep with? God, you can't understand. I had nothing with her. Just that night. I only had one night with this guy. What? Did I hurt your feelings? Oh yeah, you know, hurt a man's ego. Why are you taking revenge on me now, after all these years? Isn't it a little late? It's fine. You can humiliate me, curse me, but what about my son? Why are you punishing him with indifference? Or are you taking revenge for being mine? Don't twist things around. He has nothing to do with it. Lying in bed, Olivia thought back to the day she found out about her husband's infidelity. Why are you telling me all this? Ethan couldn't cheat on me. He loves me. But the conversation was interrupted by a short beep. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. He's not like that. We're about to have a baby. A sharp pain in her lower abdomen made the woman bend. A trickle of blood trickled down her legs. Daddy. With trembling hands, she dialed her father's number. Daddy. She cried into the receiver, Benjamin. Come to me urgently, my baby, my baby. I'm afraid, Daddy. I feel so bad. Don't cry, daughter. I'll be right there. Just don't hang up. I'll call the hospital. They'll come to you right away. Father ran down the corridor, followed by the doctors, and on the gurney lay pale Olivia with an IV in her hand. Dad, are they gonna save my baby? Will they? It's gonna be okay. Don't worry, sweetheart. This clinic has the best doctors in the world. I can't lose him, do you understand? I need him, this baby. You won't lose him, Benjamin assured me. No miracle happened, and the doctor's verdict was still in my ears. Olivia, girl, there was nothing we could do. We had to terminate the pregnancy. You were in danger. You had lost a lot of blood. The baby, with such blood loss, was doomed. Olivia, my daughter. Benjamin looked anxiously at his daughter. Don't kill yourself. They were saving you. And what to do? I dreamed so much about this child, and now I have to wait again to get pregnant. What am I going to tell Ethan? Ethan's a smart man. He'll figure it out. I'm sorry, but I have to tell you that you can never be a mother. I'm telling you this now so you don't have any illusions. Daddy, how's that? Why? A lot of women have abortions, they miscarry, and then they're pregnant again. Am I any worse? But not in your case, you were too far along. Don't worry, the doctor says you can always take a little one from an orphanage or go to a surrogate. There are so many options today. Are you out of your mind? I want my baby, okay? Mine. What am I gonna tell my husband? What's a family without children? She grabbed the doctor's arm. I'm begging you. Ethan mustn't know I've lost a child. Daddy, don't let anyone dare say I've lost him, or I'll. She collapsed on the pillow and sobbed. Daughter, don't even think about dying. We still have to tell your husband about the miscarriage. He has to know the truth. No, don't you dare, or I won't be able to take care of myself. You have to realize we can't keep this from him much longer. Not now, please. While he's away on business, I'll tell you when he gets back. Dad, do something. I'm begging you. Your daughter's family is on the verge of disaster. What is there to do? I'd give anything to make you happy, but there's nothing money can do. Olivia couldn't stay in the ward. She went to the hospital park, sat on a bench and cried. Woman, can I help you? Someone's hand rested on the woman's shoulders, shuddering with sobs. She raised her head. Olivia? What's wrong? What happened? She jumped up, shoved her fist painfully into Daniel's chest. It was him. It's your wife's fault. You snake. I lost my baby because of her. I hate her. I don't see what Kathy has to do with this. Sit down and tell me. Calm down. How can I calm down? Her mom called and told me that Kathy's having Ethan's baby. And you didn't know. I knew. Kathy told me right away. And you forgave her? Married her knowing she was pregnant with another man's child. Of course I love her. I had to accept her as she was. And I was stupid to be happy that he loved me. I didn't even look at the others. I was faithful. But she cried again. We had a good night out. I don't get it, Kathy. When her mother, Wendy, called, I had a miscarriage. I was pregnant too, with my husband's baby, not another man's. And now I'm never gonna have kids. Why would Ethan want me childless? He'll leave me the first chance he gets. Kathy, you ruined our family. What are you doing? Getting all hot and bothered? Your Ethan won't leave you. If he wanted to, he'd have left a long time ago. How many opportunities have there been? And Kathy hasn't given you any reason not to trust her. Aren't you afraid he'll turn on her? He's gonna find out she's carrying his baby sooner or later. Do you think Kathy would stay with you if he beckoned her? I doubt it. We'd both be fools. What am I supposed to do? Drown myself? Why should I live without him? Wait for drowning. Daniel thought for a moment. There must be a way out. There is. Olivia lowered her voice to a whisper, looking around. We can switch the baby. I don't care whose baby it is, as long as my husband doesn't find out he's not the father. I've got it all figured out. What's the time difference with Kathy? I don't know, a month or two. What's it to you? What was it supposed to be? A son? Why are you giving me riddles? You see, I don't like raising someone else's child. It'll always remind me of the affair. And you said you forgive me. Olivia grinned. Do not cling to the words. I dream of my own. If you are ready for a switch, how would we arrange that Kathy child, she is also waiting for a son, became yours? Let's restore some justice, so to speak. Let the boy be brought up by his father. He doesn't even know about him. I'm willing to sign any papers to keep the whole story quiet. And what do you want for that? Olivia wiped away her tears. Nothing. Just to get rid of the baby. If it works out, everybody wins. You get the baby and I get rid of him without blood and tears. The father gets his son. Only your wife will lose. Olivia grinned evilly. Serves her right. Don't hang on other men's husbands. She took my son and I'll take her. In a year's time, she'll get pregnant again and have my child, and everyone will be happy. And make sure I never see or hear from you or your husband again. And in fact, let's pretend we don't know each other. You don't have to worry about that. The only thing is, how do we do this discreetly? We'll need a doctor's help, but I don't think any of them would agree to a forgery. Don't worry. The woman's got her spirits back up. The doctor I had my baby with is a friend of my father's. We'll arrange for Kathy to go to him for the delivery. He'll do everything before anyone knows I've lost the baby. I'll pretend I'm still pregnant. My dad will arrange for me to stay at the clinic. It's easier to hide the loss of the baby. You'll let me know when you're due, and the rest will be up to the doctor. Are you sure? We won't get burned. You guarantee it. Can you trust him? He'll do anything for me, and if he doesn't want me, I'll get my dad involved. So, are you ready to write a waiver right now? I can't wait to see our contract signed. Let's do it this way. I'm actually waiting for my wife to come home from counseling. I'll take her home and call you, and in the meantime, you find out what's going on. If the doctor doesn't agree, then it's not worth it. I don't want to risk it. Kathy won't forgive me if he finds out what we're up to. Don't worry, no one will find out. They went their separate ways, and 2 hours later, they were sitting in the chief of staff's office. Daniel, do you realize what you're setting me up for? The doctor was horrified by Olivia and Daniel's plan. If any information leaks out, I'll go to jail. It's a crime. It's a crime to make me childless. The woman said, It's okay. We'll grow up. He'll be no worse than anyone else. He will not go to a foreign family, but to his own father. Don't you feel sorry for Kathy? She's been dying to lose a child for a while. Think of what she's going through. Was she sorry when she was screwing my husband? I guess she didn't realize she was hurting me. It's okay. Let her feel what it's like to lose a child. Do you have any idea what would happen if the forgery came out? We'd all go to jail. If you don't tell us, no one will ever hear from us. Daniel, are you sure you're ready to give up your unborn child? You bet I am. I don't want a living reminder of my wife's infidelity. I dream of my hair, and I'm determined. Don't you feel sorry for your wife? She'll cry, she'll cry, she'll stop crying. I'll do my best to make Kathy forget about the child as soon as possible. Think about it. You're saving 2 families from destruction. Yeah, but at what cost? Taking a mother's son away from her? That's inhumane. I don't know. I'm not ready to take that step. It will be your fault if Ethan leaves me. Olivia screamed hysterically, and he'll leave me when he finds out I can't bear him in hair. For my father's sake, for the sake of your friendship, help me. I want to be happy too. Does Benjamin know what you're up to? Naturally, and he supports me in everything I do. His daughter's happiness is more important to him than anything else in the world. Mind you, your risks will be generously paid for. All right, the doctor has given up. But swear you won't back down at the last minute and keep it a secret. I don't want to lose my job. You don't have to worry about that. We both have a vested interest in silence. Where are we going to get proof that the baby died? I'll take care of the death certificate, but you'll have to bury the baby in the cemetery. I'll take care of that. Daniel looked seriously at Olivia. An inconsolable mother should be able to say goodbye to her son. Everything should look natural. I can't imagine what Kathy will do to you if she finds out the truth. The doctor said thoughtfully, You are a frightful man. She will not find out the truth. I protect the interests of my family. Shall we make a deal? Daniel extended his hand to the doctor, who shook it. Olivia was satisfied, smiling triumphantly. Here it is. Pay back for the sin I committed 5 years ago. They say God sees who offends whom, and what a dear price I will have to pay for my deception. The woman thought when she heard the diagnosis. Olivia, I'm being completely honest with you. Uterine cancer is a scary and insidious disease. Unfortunately, surgery is not an option. Treatment must begin immediately. Is 2 days enough to take care of everything? After that, there will be a long and difficult path of treatment and rehabilitation. You'll be in the hospital for a long time. I'll be fine. On stiff legs, the woman left the office and sat down on a chair in the corridor. Fear squeezed her heart with a merciless hand. It became difficult to breathe, and tears flowed and flowed from her eyes. A woman? Asked on the way, a nurse who ran past. Do you need any help? No, thank you. No one can help me now, she thought. She got up and walked to the exit, dialing a number on the way. Kathy? She asked in a shaky voice. It's Olivia. We need to talk. It's urgent. When can we meet? What do we have to talk to you about? Kathy was surprised. I have a confession to make about you and Ethan. Come on tonight after work. Although I don't see what Ethan and I have to do with each other. It's been a while. Don't say no. It's a matter of life and death. I'll call you and tell you where I'll be waiting. There's no forgiveness for me. I must confess what I've done. Olivia said on the way home, if I'm going to die, I want to get the stone off my soul. Did I think then that the boomerang of fate would catch up with me and I would be so cruelly punished? But how will I tell her that I stole her son? How will I explain that I colluded with her husband? The woman fumbled around the apartment, not knowing what to hold on to. No, I can't tell her. I'm afraid to see the hate in her eyes, to hear her curse at me. She won't forgive me anyway, and I don't need her forgiveness. The main thing is to get the boy back to his real mother. What do I do? There must be a way out. Stop! She stopped abruptly. I'll write a letter? That's right. I'll write a letter now and give it to her when I see her. I'll ask her to open it when I go to the hospital. That's right, not before. Just a page of handwriting. Olivia grinned bitterly, half an hour later, rereading the letter. And therein lies my sin and Kathy's happiness. Now I must call Daniel. I will explain everything to him. He'll understand that I can't do otherwise. Olivia? Daniel was surprised to hear from her, as they hadn't seen each other since that memorable day. Did something happen? Didn't we agree to keep our acquaintance private? Daniel, I can't keep quiet anymore. I've decided to tell Kathy. Wait, what do you mean you've decided to tell her? We swore we'd keep it quiet. I'm sorry, circumstances have changed. What circumstances? Daniel was furious. Have you forgotten how I saved you from the loony bin? And now you've decided to dump me? You promised me that Ethan or his little brat would never show up on my horizon again. Everything was fine, and now what? I'm gravely ill. I may not have much time left in this world. I don't want to leave with the guilt of your wife. If you've decided to destroy your family, I won't talk you out of it. But leave us alone. Leave me out of this. I'm not going to repent. You can't stop me. I've written a letter to Kathy and arranged to meet her today. I can't keep the secret any longer. I feel my illness, payback for the crime. Olivia, what are we doing on the phone? Daniel was on edge. He wanted to strangle Olivia, but he decided to try to talk her down. Why don't we meet like good old friends? We'll sit in a cafe. I'll buy you a coffee and we'll talk about it. I know you're not yourself right now. We'll think together how to resolve our situation with dignity, so no one gets hurt. Tell me where to meet you. You can't talk me out of this. Olivia said, getting into Daniel's car when he picked her up at her house an hour later. I've thought it over. Don't you think we should make decisions like this together? Aren't you afraid you'll suffer the same fate? I'm sure the illness is punishment for a mistake I made. Tell me the heavens are angry with you. Don't be ridiculous. Are you really going to tell my wife everything as it is? Your wife and my husband. Yes, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I can't tell her to her face. I wrote a letter. Is the letter with you? With me. You wouldn't believe it, but I felt so much better. I've only just realized what you and I have done. How could I ever think of taking a baby away from its mother? And you, what have you done with your wife's life? I saw her at the cemetery the other day, more beautiful in her coffin. None of your business. Give me the letter, I'll see what you wrote. The truth. Everything as it was. I don't believe you'd do that. Is he bluffing? What do you want? Money, how much? I have a good business, I can share it. How much is your silence worth today? I'm not interested in money. I'm determined to get my child back to her mother. And here, She waved the letter in front of Daniel's nose. A confession. Give it to me now. He tried to grab the envelope. I won't. And anyway, where are we going? Out of town. You don't want anyone to see us together, remember? We don't know you. Watch the road. Slow down. What's wrong? Did you change your mind about dying? He's speeding up on purpose to tease her. Give me the envelope. Even if you take the envelope from me, I'll still open Kathy's eyes. Let her know what kind of monster she's been living with for so many years. Do you think she'll stay with you after all this? One phone call, one letter, and the myth of a happy family life will fall apart. Oh, you little bitch, are you blackmailing me? Daniel only took his eyes off the road for a moment to snatch the letter from Olivia's hands, but it was his fatal mistake. Hey, the woman screamed, instinctively covering her head with her hands. At breakneck speed, the car flew into the oncoming lane. Daniel tried to turn the steering wheel. The side wheels caught the edge of the asphalt. Gravel burst out from under them. The car was thrown up. A split second later, the car collapsed to the ground. The wheels were still spinning frantically, humming. Get an ambulance, police, firemen. Immediately, a crowd gathered. People tried to pull the injured out of the car lying on the roof. But Olivia and Daniel did not see or hear it. Their bloody bodies were lying on the roadside, waiting for the police to arrive. The terrible accident had happened just a few minutes ago on a country highway. Kathy leaned back tiredly in her chair and almost dozed off, listening to scraps of phrases from the news. According to eyewitnesses, the culprit was the driver of a foreign car who had swerved into the oncoming lane of traffic. Apparently, the speed was too high because the car was thrown into the air. According to preliminary data, there were 2 people in the foreign car, a man and a woman. Both are dead. Their identities are being established. Suddenly, the phone rang. Hello. Shaking off her drowsiness, the woman spoke. Kathy, you need to come over for identification right away. I'm sorry, but according to our information, your husband was killed in a traffic accident. We need to make a positive identification. Wait, you're wrong. The husband should be at work right now. He wasn't going anywhere. We found an ID in your husband's name in the victim's car. Only you can confirm or deny our assumptions. So come on down. There's been some kind of horrible mistake. Kathy stared at the phone in confusion, where short beeps were heard. This can't be true. Daniel is a good driver. What would he be doing on the country highway? Maybe he loaned his car to someone. That would explain the ID. I'll call him now and find out. The woman dialed Daniel's number. The subscriber's phone is switched off or out of range. A mechanical voice said, No, it's not him. Definitely not him. She packed quickly, hailed a cab, and headed for the morgue. Ethan? Kathy was surprised to see her former classmate at the entrance to the dingy gray building. What are you doing here? Probably the same as you. I'm here for the lineup. My wife, she was in your husband's car. How? Do they know each other? I didn't know. Neither did I. Maybe it was an accident. Come on, they're waiting for us. Kathy opened the door with determination. Come in. A stern-looking pathologist was watching the lineup closely. Are you ready? I'm ready. She still couldn't believe that under the white sheet with the license plate on his leg lay her husband, but it was too late to back down. Daniel, she whispered, seeing her husband's pale face. The woman swayed. Ethan supported her under her arm. Now you. The man turned to Ethan and pulled back the sheet. Yes. In a husky voice, he said, This is my wife, Olivia. Come with me. I'll give you the dead men's belongings. Both were given small boxes. The man and the woman went outside. "Kathy, are you going home?" "Yes, although, to be honest, I don't want to go back, and the house is huge, and now without Daniel, it's empty. We dreamed of having a big family, but it didn't work out." "Kathy," Ethan stopped. "It's good to see you. I'm sorry we met under such sad circumstances. It was good to see you, too. How long has it been since we've seen each other?" 5 years? "Yes, 5 years." The woman opened the car door. "I'm sorry, I have to go. I should go too. My son's waiting for me at home. I have to tell him somehow that my mom's gone. You're lucky you have a son, and I have a son." Kathy hurriedly got in her car and drove off. "Kathy?" She stood by the fresh mound of flowers and stared at her husband's portrait, unconcerned. "If you need anything, call me. Don't be shy. Shake her hand, Daniel's friends." "Thank you." Like a robot, the woman responded to condolences. "How young?" The acquaintances shook their heads sympathetically. His business was so strong, so promising, but it just rose and burned down at its peak. Business partners were saddened. Heaven takes the best, and your husband, Kathy, was a reliable man. She longed to be left alone to think in silence about her life. Unnoticeably in the troubles of organizing the funeral, wake, registration of documents, 40 days passed. Kathy thought with horror how she would survive the necessity to gather again all these unfamiliar and completely unknown people who would again say something about her husband. She didn't want to see anyone. Why all the speeches, the wake, if the man was gone? She asked Lisa. It was the custom. She shrugged her shoulders. The question I'm most interested in is how Olivia ended up in the same car as my husband. I don't think we'll ever know. She asked me to meet her. Kathy suddenly remembered. I wonder what she wanted to tell me. The woman hardly waited until the end of the dinner, respecting the propriety, said goodbye to everyone, thanking them for their sympathy for her grief. She gave orders to the waiters and hurried home. Kathy, a representative man in a strict business suit approached her. May I give you a ride home? I'd appreciate it. She said yes and got into a brand new black Jeep. Kathy realized that this gentleman had something serious to say to her. Otherwise, he would not have offered to help her. What do you want from me? She asked directly. Your husband has a huge business, and you are the sole heir to his fortune. Why should a fragile woman take on the headache? Besides, as far as I know, you've never taken any interest in your husband's business. Is there anything in particular you'd like to offer me? I'd like to buy your business and give you a quiet life and keep you out of danger. What makes you think I'm in any danger? Because, fair lady, your husband's business is a tidbit for all those who have assured you today of their readiness to help you if you have any difficulty. Why should I believe you? You have no other choice. I have no reason to deceive you. I'll give you a good price. Not at a loss, I admit, but I'll buy your whole business so you don't have to sell it off piecemeal. If you turn me down, your husband's former partners will swoop in and start tearing your business apart, and everyone will try to get their hands on you, and believe me, you won't be able to resist them. What if I don't want to sell? Then they'll use some less than legal methods. You know what I'm talking about. Kathy went cold when she realized what I was saying. And none of them will discount the fact that you just lost your husband. They don't give a damn about you. Nothing personal, just business. They're bargain hunters. They're used to making a profit. Had I convinced you? I can expect to be able to buy your husband's business in 6 months when you inherit it. To be honest, I decided to sell everything at once. Kathy said, looking out the car window. Raindrops slowly dripped down the window. Nature mourned with her for her husband, her failed family life, the loneliness that already had an iron grip on her. I want to get away from here. It's hard to come to a house where we were happy in our own way with my husband. I hope I can make a fresh start. That's great. Stopping in front of the house, the man said. Then I'll contact you myself or send my lawyer. Kathy entered the house. She was stunned by the ringing silence. To break it, the woman turned on some music, undressed, and got into bed. No more souring. She said to herself in the morning, "It is time to put the house in order. It is necessary to collect her husband's things and give them to some social service. What if someone could use them?" She had a quick breakfast and started cleaning. Going through the papers in her husband's study, she came across a box that had been given to her after Daniel's death. "I wonder what's in there," she said, lifting the lid. A watch, the face broken. "I gave it to him last year. Wallet, bank cards, money, everything is there. What's this envelope?" She twirled it in her hands in surprise, a white mailing envelope with no address, blood caked on one side. Who was it intended for, this unsent letter? Kathy cut open the envelope with a paper knife and pulled out a triple-folded piece of paper. "Kathy," she read it. "Strange, a letter for me? But from whom?" She glanced at the signature. "Olivia? Kathy, I didn't have the heart to tell you to your face that I'm a vile creature. I ruined your life. Now I'm trying to make some kind of excuse to you, even though I realize I'm unforgivable. 5 years ago, I robbed you of your son. I know how crazy I sound, but I was driven by revenge at the time. I couldn't forgive you for sleeping with my husband. I lost my child. I was sure Ethan wouldn't stay with me. He wanted an heir. I couldn't give it to my husband anymore. The doctors diagnosed infertility. And then we met Daniel. He didn't want to put up with your infidelity either, even though he assured you otherwise. Somehow we agreed to have your son registered in my name. At that time I thought I was doing everything right, protecting my family, but one day you have to pay for your mistakes. I'm very sick right now. I don't know if I can make it. But in the eyes of God, I'm gonna try to make it right. I know Ethan won't forgive me. I've done too much wrong. At least try to understand me now. I've been a good mother, but I haven't been able to forget whose son Hunter really is. He's yours and Ethan's. Forgive me if you can, and try to be happy. I sincerely wish it for you. Olivia." "Hunter? My boy's name is Hunter?" Kathy rushed like crazy to get dressed. "I'm going to see him at once. I don't know how that's possible." She dropped everything and went to Ethan's. "You?" He exhaled when he saw her on the doorstep. "I wasn't expecting that, but I'm glad. Come in. I really wasn't expecting guests today. I didn't come to visit." Kathy, worried, entered the living room. "I brought a letter to read, your wife's confession." She handed him a letter. "Read it, and then we'll have to decide what to do about it." This. The man was speechless when he read the letter. "Are you sure it's the truth? Would a man who might be on death's doorstep lie to himself? That's why your wife was in Daniel's car. I wouldn't give Olivia's confession so much credence. Yes, she's changed lately. Yeah, she's been cold to Nate. But how did they set it up? I think Olivia's father had something to do with it. I don't think they'd do the forgery without Benjamin's support. Benjamin won't be able to find out anything. He had a stroke right after Olivia's funeral. What are you suggesting? I want to see my son. Wait, I'm not gonna let you traumatize his psyche. He just lost his mother, and you show up. In fact, I need proof that you're his mother. A letter written by Olivia in some obscure state of mind is not proof. You want me to take a DNA test? I'll do it. immediately. I have nothing to hide. I want to prove that Hunter is my son. They immediately went to the clinic, took the tests. Kathy couldn't bear to wait for the results. A few days later, they met again. Kathy, I congratulate you. The probability that you are Hunter's mother is over 99%. Ethan stood there like a thunderstruck man. Kathy broke into a smile. I knew it. I felt it was my boy. You can't fool a mother's heart. I felt him the day your mother showed me his picture. I recognized my features in him, but it seemed wild to me then. They left the clinic together. Shall we go to the cafe? Ethan suggested. We have a lot to talk about. What are we going to do? I want to raise my son. It'll be hard for you to handle him. You're a man. I want to feel like a real mother. You can't deny me that. I hope we can work this out between us without lawyers. I have to think this through. I have to do the paperwork. What's to think about? I just want to see my son. You can't deny me that, can you? No, not today. My head's still a mess myself. I have to talk to him, explain it to him somehow. Here's what we'll do. Tomorrow we'll meet at my house. You'll talk to him. You don't know if they'll be able to take you in. All right. Kathy agreed, though she wanted to hug her son with all her heart, but she realized Ethan's reasoning was correct. I'm sure Hunter will accept me, not right away, of course, but at least I'll be near him. The next day, the woman bought a huge, soft teddy bear and went to visit. Come in. Ethan stepped aside, letting her into the house. We're waiting for you. Hello, little one. Kathy looked at the exact replica of Ethan. Curls of hair just like hers were neatly combed. The boy eyed his unfamiliar aunt warily. She held out the bear to him and smiled broadly. The little boy smiled back and accepted the toy. Kathy did not make an attempt to hug him, afraid to scare him. She decided not to rush things. You're doing great, Ethan praised her. I was afraid that you wouldn't stand up to him and rush to hug him. He invited her to the table, their son playing nearby. After a while, the child sat freely on Kathy's lap, and she stroked his hair fondly and inhaled the unique scent of childhood. I should probably go, the woman said hesitantly. The baby needs to go to bed too. Will you come again? Hunter asked hopefully, looking at his mother with brown eyes. Do you want her to stay with us forever? Unexpectedly, Ethan blurted out. The boy jumped up, clapped his hands, and then hugged Kathy's legs. She picked the child up, held him to her, kissed him, and cried. Why are you crying? Smiling, Ethan asked. Go put your son to bed. I'll set the table. 15 minutes later, the woman returned, a happy smile wandering on her face. He fell asleep, she said. I had to remember the fairy tales I read as a child. He's very curious. That's what your mother used to say.